Beyond that was the bedroom. A 6-foot wide bed faced those massive floor-to-ceiling windows. You could literally lie there and watch the ocean. The bathroom went even harder. Double vanities, a freestanding tub, a walk-in shower, plus a sauna, wrapped completely in gray marble, understated but fiercely expensive. I stood by the window watching the waves for a bit, then finally asked when I could move in. Jiangqing flipped open her folder and said the title transfer takes about a week. She added that if I was in a hurry, I could sign a usage agreement and move in tomorrow. Management offers full concierge service. Bedding, towels, and toiletries could all be prepped in advance. Tomorrow it is, I told her. Jiangqing nodded and jotted that down in her folder. We headed back downstairs to the garden. I stood by the pool for just a moment longer. Then I asked Secretary Jiang how much this exact house would be worth if it sold. She thought it over. Based on current resale prices, somewhere between 80 and 100 million. But properties the group holds generally stay off the market. The group internal valuation sits around 70 million. 70 million, I gave a nod. My own equity was worth 10 billion. So a $70 million house was honestly just a drop in the bucket. Still, getting this place completely for free felt pretty damn good. Sometimes the real value of a thing is not the price tag, but the sheer effort it takes to acquire it. This 70 million villa had not cost me a cent. Jiangqing asked if I was satisfied. I told her I would take it. I turned and strolled back toward the door. Her efficiency was honestly remarkable. By the time I got back in the car, she had already contacted the property manager. They agreed to deliver the keys and the contract at 10 the next morning. The car pulled slowly out of Marina Bay. Out the window, I caught one last glimpse of that cream-colored villa. So this was one of my homes now. But as a player, Lin Mo would never tie myself down to just one single tree. One house simply was not enough. Meanwhile, over at Sihai Restaurant, Luzian was sipping her tea when someone knocked on the office door. "Come in." The hinges creaked as Wang Yui walked inside. With a towel wrapped around her head, she wore a simple white slip dress under a thin cardigan. Fresh and clean. A completely different vibe from the sultry mermaid, showing off in the water earlier. She greeted Sister Lu. Lu nodded and Wang sat down across from her. "Ask whatever you want to ask," Lu told her. She set her cup down like she completely expected this. Wang did not beat around the bush. "That Mr. Lin who came with Director Lu today, do you know anything about his actual background?" Lu stayed quiet. Instead, she asked why Wang had her eye on him. Wang nodded openly. Lu laughed. "You sneaky little thing. You have a sharp eye." Spotting a prime catch in the guy Director Lu brought along with a single glance. Of course, Wang said it like a simple fact. "You know exactly what kind of man Director Lu is. There are barely a handful of young guys in all of Binhai province he would personally escort to a meal, chat up, and actually treat with absolute respect." Lu smiled, said absolutely nothing. "Sister Lu, just tell me who this Mr. Lin really is." She leaned over the desk, her voice totally urgent. Lu pondered the question for a moment. "I am not entirely sure of the details myself. I cannot exactly go digging into a client's private background. But when Director Lu introduced him, he did say one thing. He is a brand new shareholder in the group." "A shareholder?" Wang's eyes immediately lit up. "A shareholder in Sasai Group. Wang Yue affinity plus 30. Current affinity stands at 30. Yeah, Lu gave a nod. For Director Lu to introduce him that seriously, his actual stake cannot be small. Plus, did you notice Mr. Lin? As young as he is, the guy carries himself with some serious presence. A shrewd operator like Director Lu would never treat him like that if he were just some rich, wet-behind-the-ears kid." Wang looked thoughtful. "I have been in this business over a decade. There is no type of person I have not seen," Lu continued. "This Mr. Lin is not someone you can easily manipulate. When you handed him that feeding basket earlier, he barely even gave it a second glance." Wang's face stiffened a little. She had always been insanely confident in her looks. But today that move had completely fallen flat. Then Lu's tone shifted, heavy with sudden meaning. "But the more a man acts like that, the more he is worth the effort. Guys who get swept away easily are cheap at heart. They will go home with you today and pick someone else tomorrow. It is the stubborn ones, the guys who do not fall easily, that stay devoted forever once they finally do." Wang listened intently, gave a nod. "Let me be straight with you. Mr. Lin is worth at least 1 billion. Whether you can actually land him is totally up to you." Sister Lu stood up and patted the younger girl's shoulder, her tone casual but loaded. "Whatever happens between you and Mr. Lin, Sahai knows absolutely nothing about it. It is entirely your own personal choice." "I understand." Wang Yui nodded. Sihai would never force its girls toward the clients, and if things went south, they wouldn't step in either. She was totally on her own. Out in the hallway, she stared at her thoughtful reflection in the glass. 1 billion. That number spun through her mind, making her heart race. She wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what that minimum number meant. Lu Sahai himself kept the guy company. called him a shareholder but treated him like a total equal, a young target with that kind of power. In the 2.5 months she had worked at this restaurant, she had never met anyone like him. 22, gorgeous, amazing figure, completely untouched. That was her absolute biggest bargaining chip. But she knew beauty alone just wouldn't cut it. She remembered the way Lin Mo had looked at her. Way too calm. It honestly made her feel like her looks were completely worthless. She needed a foolproof plan. Back at her apartment, she kicked off her heels, walked barefoot across the floor, and grabbed a cold bottle of water from the fridge. Taking 2 massive gulps, she sank right onto the couch and pulled up the photos she had snapped by the pool on her phone. In it, Lin Mo was turned slightly, talking to Lu Sahai with a faint smile tugging at his mouth. His expression held this indescribable ease. She stared at the screen for a long time, then started plotting. Step 1, get Lin Mo's number. She couldn't just ask Sister Lu directly. Way too obvious. That sharp woman would think she was being cheap. Lu Sihai was completely out of reach, and she had zero ties to Zhongqing either. That left just one option. Wait it out. Lin Mo was a shareholder here. The odds of him coming back to the restaurant were high. Just sit tight, and a second meeting would happen. But waiting alone just wasn't enough. She had to be fully prepared. She stood and paced the living room, mind racing like she was cracking a brutal math equation. Lin Mo's gaze had been so indifferent. Plain beauty simply wouldn't work here. She had to show him a totally different side. During dinner, he took one single bite of the matsutake fish maw soup and pushed it aside. But he crushed several pieces of the crispy roast goose. The man liked bold, layered flavors. A minor detail, but potentially useful. She started building a mental profile of Lin Mo, snapping every little thing she noticed today into place like puzzle pieces. But by the end of it, she realized she barely had any pieces at all. One meal just scratched the surface. It never even touched the core of who he really was. She needed a deeper way inside his head, turning the problem over. Sister Lu's warning bubbled up again. He wasn't some simple pushover you could easily handle. The harder a guy was to read, the more those conventional tricks failed. Wang Yu took a deep breath. Her mind was made up. Next time they met, she wouldn't just play the mermaid. What she wanted Lin Mo to see was a real person. Flesh and blood with a sharp mind, not just some pretty fish swimming around for amusement. A full battle plan took shape. First up, a fresh persona. In the pool, she would stay the beautiful mermaid, same as always. But the exact second she got to interact with him, she would show off a completely different side. Talk business, bring up his actual interests. Make him understand she wasn't just some pretty face. Second, manufacture coincidences. Nothing too painfully obvious. It had to feel like a totally natural chance encounter. Next time he left, she would happen to have an emergency, happen to fail at hailing a cab, strike up a conversation, and conveniently end up right in his car. Third, and definitely the most important part, make him take the lead. Chase a guy like Lin Mo, and he just retreats. You had to make him feel like he was the one making the moves. It required serious patience, subtlety, and totally precise judgment. You couldn't rush it, but you couldn't play too hard to get either. It was exactly like brewing tea. The water not too hot or cold, the timing absolutely flawless. Everything just right. Some prey were much easier to catch by approaching without a single sound. A real angler never lets the fish see the hook. She zoomed in on the photo, studying his expressionless face, and suddenly smiled. Lin Mo, she breathed it softly like she was rehearsing an important line. Just you wait. She pressed the phone to her chest, closed her eyes, and mentally started rehearsing every single word, nailing down every expression for their next meeting. She was going to reel this fish right in. Night fell, and the city lights slowly flickered on, one by one. The noise rose up like a heavy tide. I headed back to the suite early. Someone was waiting for me at home. I pushed the door open. The warm yellow sconce in the entryway was on, but the living room lights were completely dark, just a floor lamp beside the sofa, throwing off a small pool of soft light. Shinji sat right in that glow, head down, scrolling on her phone. I noticed it right away. The phone was brand new. Hearing the door, she finally looked up. Light gray loungewear, the collar hanging loose enough to reveal pale collarbone, still marked with those faint traces. Loose strands of hair fell beside her ear. She looked incredibly soft, quiet. She stood up. You are back. Have you eaten? Not yet. I changed my shoes and walked in. That is when I spotted a dark blue shopping bag on the coffee table, stamped with a phone brand logo identical to the one in her hand. I raised an eyebrow but let it go. I asked what she wanted to eat. I told her I'd order, she just had to decide. She agreed, tapping her screen for a few things. Then she paused, offering me the bag with both hands. She said it was a thank you gift from the sisters, payback for the welcome gifts I bought them yesterday. Jiwa and the others went out today and bought you a phone. We really hope you like it. Right on top sat a handwritten card. It thanked me for my gift, calling me brother-in-law, and hoped I would like this one in return. When I stayed quiet, she took it as hesitation. She quickly begged me to accept it, saying Xihua would be crushed if I didn't. The two of them put a ton of thought into it, even spent ages reading reviews online. They even asked the salesperson which color would age best. I just smiled. Taking the bag, I lifted the lid to find a brand new phone, its dark gray metal body glinting coolly under the warm room light. I weighed it in my hand, just the right heft, totally smooth to the touch. I asked if all three chipped in. She nodded. Emmy wanted white, Xihua picked pink, and she went with dark gray. Her voice completely trailed off on those last words. I kept the phone in my palm, turning to look right at her. The light caught the side of her face, her lashes casting small fans of shadow. She pressed her lips together, watching me nervously like she was waiting for a verdict. "Oh, you girls," I sighed, letting a smile slip into my voice. "Why waste your money on this? My old phone is a little dated, sure, but it still works." She fired right back. Xihua said, "Yours is a model from 2 years ago." Then, realizing that might sound like she was looking down on me, she scrambled to fix the moment. She stammered that my phone wasn't bad, just she couldn't even get the words out, her cheeks flushing bright red. Watching her get so flustered, I suddenly felt the urge to reach out and pinch her cheek. Instead, I just gripped the new phone and sincerely thanked her. I said I really loved it. 4 simple words, light as they were landing heavy on her heart. She froze for a split second, then lowered her head, totally failing to fight down the smile pulling at the corners of her mouth. "I'm glad," she said softly. She confessed most of the cash wasn't even theirs. It was the 100,000 I gave Xihua for spending money. She told me to just think of it as buying it for myself, since they only did the legwork. That actually made me laugh. "So you returned my own gift and called it yours," I teased. "It's not like that," she insisted, looking up to meet my eyes earnestly. "Xihua said I was good to them, and they couldn't take that for granted. Even if they were just anyway. She said they had to be worthy of my kindness." She almost blurted out that they were just a contractual arrangement, but swallowed the words at the very last second. I caught the pause but didn't push it. I just leaned back into the couch, turning the new phone over in my hands. Then I told her to help me set it up. She blinked, swapped the SIM card, transfer the data. I handed the phone and box over, completely unapologetic. I told her since they bought it, they could deal with the setup. I called it after-sales service. She just stared at me, muttering under her breath that she wasn't even the one who bought it, but she took it anyway. We sat side by side. She bent over the device, carefully working out the SIM tray while I just watched her. Her fingers were long and slender, nails trimmed round and clean without any polish. "Did you get this same color too?" I suddenly asked. She gave a quiet hum. "Matching couple's color." Her fingertip twitched, the tiny SIM card nearly hitting the floor. She mumbled at me not to say stuff like that. Her voice was muffled, but her ears burned deep red. I smiled but let her off the hook. I just quietly watched her unpack the pieces, insert the card, and power it on. The exact moment the screen lit up, I checked the time, 7 o'clock sharp. Then the doorbell rang. Food delivery. I got up, wheeled the cart inside, and laid all the food out on the coffee table. She was still glued to the loading bar, not even lifting her head. "Eat first," I said. "Almost done," she replied, "just a bit more." I reached over, pulling the phone straight out of her hands. She looked up, a little wounded at being interrupted. But the second she saw me holding out the chopsticks, she obediently took them. The few dishes weren't anything crazy, just things I had ordered before, when eating with her and her sisters. She hadn't asked me what to get, yet she had gotten every dish. Right. My chopsticks paused for a second. I didn't say a word. After dinner, once we had both showered, she and I stepped out onto the balcony. From up here you could look out over most of the seaside city's night view. The evening breeze drifted by, carrying a perfect hint of the cold air. I asked Shi-Chin if she had any plans for the future. She blinked, caught completely off guard. I asked if she planned to keep streaming forever. I swirled the wine in my glass as she nodded. I knew before she met me her absolute biggest wish had been earning enough to pay for her mother's treatment. But that 2 million yesterday had already covered her mother's medical bills. It also paid off most of the debt her father left behind. Only 500,000 remained. With how hard those 3 sisters worked, they could clear it in 5 or 6 years. They were young. They had time to burn. "If you all want to keep at it, fine. I am not going to be unreasonable," I told her plainly. "But I need you to change up your style. Try switching to product sales." I had absolutely zero interest in putting my woman on display for the whole world. Making them quit streaming entirely just was not realistic. I had to find another angle. She admitted they had actually thought about doing e-commerce. "But we are tiny streamers. The fans would not buy in." Most of her viewers only showed up for those command-based streams. A sudden pivot to sales would be like forcing a sweet tooth to choke down salt. Big streamer or small, if the product is solid, people buy. I told her not to worry about fans. You build an audience over time. But sourcing vendors, picking products, handling customer service, We do not know how to do any of that. She went quiet for a moment, her breath caught. Then she finally voiced her biggest fear. Product selection breaks people. It is the hardest part of live shopping. Choose wrong, and even the platform's biggest star can lose everything overnight. She knew the risks perfectly well. That is why she never took this path, no matter how easy it looked to strike it rich. I swirled my glass. The amber liquid left thick streaks down the crystal. I took my time, just watched her in the silence. The night breeze caught those loose strands of hair by her ear. She tilted her head, staring out at the scattered city lights, completely lost. I told her product selection, supply chain, customer service. None of that is an issue here. Setting my drink on the railing, I kept my voice low. The wind carried it anyway. I have the right connections. She looked back at me, her face tight. She opened her mouth and swallowed the words whole. Go ahead and say it. You do not need to hold back with me. She seemed to be choosing her next words very carefully. If you help us this much, what happens later when we cannot function without you? Our contract was only for a single year. Once they got addicted to my support, where would they go? Then do not leave. I threw the words out casually, but a dark, possessive weight anchored them down. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. I told her she knows I am serious about them. I slowed my pace down, spelling it out word for word. That 1-year term was just so I would not crush you under too much pressure. I am backing you because you are worth it. I refuse to watch you scrape by, bowing your head for some digital loose change. She stiffened. My guess is she thought of her little sister forced to smile at strangers and purr good night, Big Brother to a screen, just for a cheap carnival gift. Smiling through it, only to hide under the covers and cry half the night when the camera shut off. Doing those little dances for a single heart emoji. Jumping around all day until her legs were so dead she could barely walk the next morning. Neither of her sisters ever made a sound about it. But she saw every miserable second, and it tore her apart. She played it tough. But deep down, she was just a 19-year-old girl. Actually a woman. That is why she agreed when I suggested meeting up. When I slid the contract across the table, she signed. Watching her defenses drop, I kept going. Just treat it like a business partnership. I held up 3 fingers. Number 1, I provide the supply chain, locking down quality and price. 2, I front the startup capital and we split the profits and losses. Number 3, she stared at my raised hand, her eyes losing focus. The damp, salty sea breeze whipped her hair around. She did not even bother to brush it away. Just stood there, chewing on my offer. And the third point, she suddenly whispered. What is the third condition? I let a second pass, then smiled. I only actually had 2 points. That third finger was still raised, completely empty of meaning. Number 3, I told her, dropping my hand to grab my drink. If the day ever comes, Sky, if you are dead set on walking away, I will not stop you. But remember this, no matter when, no matter where you are, the second you hit a wall you cannot climb over. I am the very first person you call. I meant every word. So damn serious she could not even look at me. She stared down at her toes in those slippers, her voice barely a whisper. You cannot just throw words around like that. A person might actually believe you. I told her I never meant it as a joke. She pressed her lips tight and let the silence hang. We just stood there together. The night air moving between us, dragging the loud city noise and the sharp salt of the ocean along with it. Minutes passed before she finally spoke. She needed to discuss the whole live shopping angle with she and Shiwa. I agreed instantly. Seeing how fast I said yes, something shifted inside her. Hard to define. She actually figured out a big reason why I stepped in. I hated those nasty nicknames in the chat. Hated seeing them treated like cheap digital fantasies. That was exactly why I pushed them toward retail. She thought my jealousy was buried so incredibly deep. She was probably wondering if the day came where she truly wanted out. Would I actually let her walk? Once she got used to being treated this well, could she ever bring herself to walk away? I told her it was getting late, and we should head inside to rest. I stepped close and slipped an arm around her waist. Her body stiffened a bit, like a sudden memory hit her. Her ears flushed bright red, but she never pulled away. She just let me hold her all the way inside. Let me set her down right on the bed. A pair of long, smooth legs trembled softly in the air. By the next morning, bright sunlight was already pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bedroom. A buzzing phone woke me up. Actually, it was hers. Shichin fumbled groggily toward the nightstand. The screen lit up with a massive, bright smile filling the whole display. It was a video call from Shinji Hua. She answered with a quick hey, her voice still husky from sleep. On the other end, Shinji Hua sat cross-legged on their rental couch. She was hugging a pillow, hair in a messy bun, wide awake and totally full of energy. Shinji was off to the side, messing with the livestream gear. She asked why Shikin sounded so scratchy, wondering if her cold was getting worse. Shinji Hua leaned right into the camera, looking genuinely concerned. Shikin remembered last night and shot straight up. She smoothed down her tangled hair, guilt creeping in. and insisted it wasn't a cold. She just woke up, and why were they calling so early? Early? It was already 9:30. Shinjihua widened her eyes. Her sister usually woke up by 7. A few days out there and she was already learning to sleep in. Shi-chin flushed red. Luckily, having just woken up, her cheeks were naturally rosy anyway, so the blush blended right in. Then Shinjihua lowered her voice, a gossipy edge creeping into her tone. She asked if she was feeling better. Shi-kin just hummed, her pretty face burning redder. Seeing her sister about to pry, she quickly changed the subject. She told Shinjihua there was something they needed to discuss. Her sister immediately asked what it was. Why the big mystery? Shi-kin just blurted it out. They were going to stop doing command live streams. A heavy silence fell on the other end. Shinjihua asked what she meant, then dropped a total shocker. Did someone in the chat call her wifey again? Was her new brother-in-law jealous? Did he want to hide her away and keep her all to himself? Shi-chin scowled, her face darkening. She told Shinjihua to stop letting her brain run wild. Her sister laughed, gave in, and asked what she actually meant. Shinjihua just stuck out her tongue. Shi-chin explained that he suggested they switch to product live streaming, and asked what the two of them thought. Shinji stopped messing with the gear. Product streaming? Their fan base was built on command stream switching, so suddenly felt like a massive risk. Shikin nodded, saying she knew, but really thought it was worth a shot. Lin Mo promised to handle the entire supply chain. Sourcing, picking products, after-sales service, none of that would be their problem anymore. On the screen, the two sisters exchanged a long glance. Shinjihua spoke first, thrilled that their brother-in-law was willing to help. She said she knew he was reliable. On day one, he bought them expensive designer bags and casually handed her 100 grand in pocket money. She claimed she'd totally throw herself at him otherwise. Shikin told her to be serious. Shinji cut in, elbowing her sister before looking at the screen. She admitted product streaming had potential, but pointed out one very practical problem. Shikin asked what she meant. Shinji counted off on her fingers. It was their apartment. Just one bedroom and a living room that was barely 10 square meters. The three of them could hardly squeeze in for a normal stream. Any sudden movement meant they had to completely clear the floor space. With product streams, where would they store the samples? Clothes, shoes, daily goods, dozens or even hundreds of physical items arriving every single shipment. They wouldn't even have room to unbox things, let alone sort and display them properly. Beside her, Shinjihua nodded vigorously in agreement. Shikin went totally silent. She had considered this exact issue, just not in such concrete terms. She figured they could somehow squeeze out a bit more space if push came to shove. But hearing Shinji lay it out like that, no amount of rearranging would actually be enough. Did they need to find a new place? Right then, I reached out and slid the phone from her hand, already wide awake. My hair was definitely a little messy, but my expression stayed as composed as ever. I held the phone high so both our faces fit into the frame at once. On the other end, the two sisters totally froze, completely unprepared for my sudden cameo. Shinjihua recovered first, waving with a massive grin. She casually wished me good morning. She teased, asking if her sister kicked the covers off last night. I shot Shikin a quick side-eye, and she turned to look right back at me. Her face clearly screamed, "Why did you snatch my phone?" I ignored it, looking back at the screen to casually mention I heard everything they just said. The apartment problem was simple, I told them. They should just move in with me. Shinjihua blinked, asking where, so I casually mentioned my villa in Bu. I tossed the offer out casually, like offering up an old shirt I never wore anymore, and telling them to just take it. I told them it was way too quiet living alone, so they should all come stay. Shinjihua's jaw dropped open, and Shinji looked completely stunned too. A villa in Bu. Shinjihua's voice went noticeably shaky as she asked if I was talking about the legendary Bu number 1. I heard properties over there go for almost 100 million. Not that much. Honestly, just 70 million. My tone was completely flat, like I was talking about spare change. Shinjihua's jaw nearly hit the floor. Shinji snapped out of it first. He nudged his sister, muttering something under his breath. She finally closed her mouth, but that pure shock in her eyes didn't fade one bit. Shinji-chin sat beside them. Hearing me say 70 million in that tone, it gave her a serious rush of emotion. She knew I had money, but seeing those massive numbers land right in front of her still felt completely unreal. Brother-in-law, Shinjihua said very carefully. "Are you serious about us moving in?" I asked if I looked like I was joking. She studied my face and quickly shook her head. "No, then there you go." I handed the phone back to Shinji-chin. "You guys talk it over while I go freshen up." With that, I turned and walked off. I kept my pace entirely leisurely, like the whole thing was just some casual offhand remark. But Shinji-chin knew I wasn't just being polite. This man always talked exactly like that. The bigger the deal, the more casual his tone became, like it was nothing. On the other end of the screen, Shinjihua and Shinji huddled together, whispering, Snippets of words like villa, livestream, and for real drifted into my ears. A moment later, Shinji Hua pressed right up to the camera. Her shock had completely morphed into excitement, eyes bright as stars. Sis, that villa brother-in-law mentioned, is it really, really big? I honestly don't know either. I have never been there, Shinji Chin said thoughtfully. But if it goes for 70 million, it is definitely not small. Her contract with me was 2 million. 70 million could sign 35 of her. Shinji Hua clapped her hands. So what are we waiting for? Let us move. A free stay in a huge villa, and brother-in-law is even helping with the supply chain. Couldn't find a deal this good anywhere. Shinji tugged at her sleeve. Staying level-headed, that is their house. How would it even look with us moving in? And besides sis and brother-in-law, their whole relationship. He didn't finish the sentence, but his meaning was crystal clear. Wiping my hands with a towel, I walked out of the bathroom and caught that last part. I walked right over to the bed and sat down. Do not worry about all that nonsense. My voice was quiet, but every single word landed crystal clear. You are Shin sisters, which makes you my sisters too. Little sisters staying at their big brother's place. That is just how the world works. Who has a problem with that? On the screen, Shinji Hua nodded furiously, basically wanting to give me a thumbs up through the display. Shinji Chin pressed her lips together, saying it was too much trouble. I have already done so much for them. You have taken this much help already, why sweat a little more? I cut her off with a smile. Besides, once this whole livestream thing really gets going, you will be working for me, not just freeloading. Think of it as an employee perk. Totally legit. She opened her mouth but could not quite come up with a solid comeback. Shinji Hua completely switched sides, shaking her older sister's arm. Come on, stop hesitating. Brother-in-law already laid it all out. Turning it down now would just be putting on airs. Have you not always wanted a massive kitchen for your baking? His kitchen has got to be absolutely huge, you shut up. Shinji Chin shot her a glare, but her tone had definitely softened. She looked at her sister on the screen, clearly waiting for confirmation. Shinji Chin glanced at me, and I just lifted my chin slightly. Go ahead. She took a deep breath, telling them to come move in. It will be perfect for planning the live streams together. The house is massive, making it way easier to get things done. Shinji stayed quiet for a few seconds, then finally nodded. Okay, but we are paying rent. We are not living there for free. I just raised an eyebrow, choosing not to push it. Fine, we will talk about that later. How many days to pack up? We do not have much. 2 days is plenty. Then in 2 days, I will drive over to pick you both up. The video call ended and the room went dead quiet. Shinji Chin sat there holding her phone, head down, completely lost in thought. I sat beside her saying nothing, just waiting it out. After a while, she spoke up softly. Thank you. For what? For being so incredibly good to them. Her voice was faint, like she was holding something heavy back. The place we rent is run down and incredibly cramped. Sometimes drunks even bang on the door at night, but they never complained once. When you said they could live in the mansion, the look on Shinji Hua's face. I have not seen her that genuinely happy in a long time. I stayed silent for a second, then reached out and gently ruffled her hair like petting a quiet cat. We are family. No need to be so formal about it. She looked up, her eyes slightly red, but the corners of her mouth curved upward. Who is family with you? She mumbled the words, her tone soft as melted sugar. I looked at her, all talk and no truth, and let a small smile tug at my lips, choosing not to call her out. Evening hit. Down in the first-floor lobby of the Sihi Hungan Group Tower. I parked right at the main entrance, quietly waiting for the two girls to finally come downstairs. Lin Sha and Suan stepped out of the elevator, brand new employee badges hanging around their necks. Lin Sha actually changed her outfit today. A white puff-sleeve blouse paired with high-waisted wide-leg pants and platform loafers. Sharp and put together. Meanwhile, Suan kept her usual understated style, a pale yellow chiffon top, a cream-colored meaty skirt. Her hair was loosely twisted up with a wooden hairpin, a few stray wisps falling beside her ears. The setting sun stretched their shadows out long. I watched Lin Sha pull out her phone to check the time, then stand on her toes, scanning the entrance like she was searching for a ride. Later, I realized she was waiting to see what kind of luxury car her cousin, the guy who could go toe-to-toe with Lehigh, would pull up in. I leaned my head out the driver window and waved. Lin Sha BID sedan, no less. Her expression looked like someone eagerly opening a fancy gift box, expecting a Tiffany necklace, only to find a single white rabbit candy inside. It wasn't exactly disgust on her face, just that this ride wasn't quite what she had pictured. What are you standing there for? Oh, coming. Coming. Lin Sha snapped out of it, quickly rearranged her expression, and pulled open the back door with a bright smile. Suan, you get in first. Suan bent slightly and slid into the car. She moved so naturally, like she honestly could not care less what kind of car she rode in. Lin Sha took the passenger seat, buckled her seatbelt, and craned her neck to check out the interior. Simple, clean, zero extra decorations besides an air freshener. I bought this car 5 years ago, back when my parents chipped in to help cover the cost. She had ridden in it plenty of times before. She knew this car inside and out. I could tell she wanted to ask something, but she held back, totally unwilling to say it out loud. She probably found it bizarre that someone handling Lehigh still drove a ride like this. The car pulled onto Benhigh Avenue, heading straight for the old part of town. The setting sun dyed the sky a deep orange-red. Out in the distance, a layer of golden light floated across the sea. Lin Sha gazed out the window for a while. Then she suddenly turned her head, her smile looking much more genuine now. Lin Mo, thank you so much for yesterday. If you hadn't gotten Secretary Zhang to help, Suan and I would still be at the dorm sending out resumes. I kept one hand on the steering wheel, eyes locked on the road. It was nothing. Do not mention it. You two are totally qualified. The interviewer was just being rigid. That is different, she replied, shaking her head. Without you, all those qualifications in the world would not matter. You did not see it. The way that middle-aged woman in glasses looked at our resumes like she was staring at pure trash. She perfectly mimicked the interviewer, furrowing her brow and pursing her lips, a look of absolute disdain covering her face. Suan could not help but laugh out loud from the back seat. I totally cracked up too. You little drama queen. It is a real shame you never went into acting. 20 minutes later, the car rolled to a stop right in front of an old red brick villa, 3 stories tall, its red bricks deeply worn and weathered by the years, which honestly just gave it a profound sense of gravitas. A wooden sign by the door read Homestyle Kitchen, hand-painted in careful calligraphy, like it was custom-made. The courtyard was modest. Bamboo lined both sides of a blue stone path. In one corner, a stone basin held a few koi, lotus leaves drifting lazily across the water. The faint scent of osmanthus hung heavy in the air. Really nice place, right? Lin Sha led us right through the courtyard, a sharp note of pride in her voice. Our club came here for dinner last time. Everyone loved it, so I made a mental note. I nodded. Not bad at all. A waitress in a plain cheapao came over to greet us, confirmed the reservation, and showed us to a private room up on the 2nd floor. A round rosewood table with 4 traditional armchairs, an ink-wash landscape hung on the wall, and a pot asparagus fern rested on the windowsill. Cream linen curtains let in the light, but kept out prying eyes. Sunlight spilled right through, bathing the entire room in a very soft glow. Lin Sha flipped through the menu, her brow furrowing slightly. Prices had definitely gone up since last time, now over 150 a head. But she quickly pushed that feeling aside, handing me the menu with a smile. Lin Mo, you order. Honestly, get whatever you want. Do not hold back. I picked a few home-style dishes. Steamed sea bass, sweet and sour pork rib, dry fried green bean, cold wood ear salad, plus a tomato egg drop soup. That is it. Lin Sha was absolutely not satisfied. Why are you only ordering the cheap stuff? Get some real dishes. Their braised pork and drunken crab are amazing. That is enough. 3 people cannot finish all that. I handed the menu back. Just add more yourself if you really want to. She gritted her teeth and added the braised pork, then quickly passed the menu to Suan. Suan shook her head. This is plenty. The waitress stepped out, leaving just the 3 of us in the room. Lin Sha took a sip of tea, eyes darting around until she finally just could not hold back. She lowered her voice and leaned in. Lin Mo, tell me the truth. What is actually happening between you and Director Liu? I glanced at her, taking my time to answer. She shot a hand into the air, swearing up and down that her lips were completely sealed. Not a single word, I swear. You know me. I've kept everyone's secrets my whole life. Like when my dad hid cash from my mom. Okay, I cut her rambling off right there, taking a slow sip of tea. We are business partners? Lin Xiao went wide-eyed in a flash, her mouth dropping open. She just sat there, frozen for several seconds. You and Director Liu are partners? Swan paused, her fingers against her teacup just a fraction. Her lashes fluttered, but her face snapped right back to total calm. She just flicked her eyes toward me for a second, a faint trace of curiosity bleeding through. Yeah. I gave a single nod, offering nothing else. Wait, does that mean you are about to make a ton of money? Lin Xiao blurted out. The second she asked, she realized how stupid it sounded, and frantically waved her hands. I do not mean it like that. I am just a little shocked, and she genuinely was. She had figured I just did Director Liu a solid, or maybe pulled a few strings. But the word partner carried way more weight than she ever imagined. Partner meant equal footing. It meant I held something Director Liu actually needed. And I, a cousin who dropped out after middle school, was already standing at a height she never even dared to dream of. Lin Xiao took a deep breath and gave a solemn nod. I get it. Do not worry, Mo. I will not say a thing. She paused for a beat, then pressed on. So, you drive that BYD on purpose, right? Keeping a low profile, laying low so nobody targets you. Her face was dead serious, her eyes practically glowing with that classic "I figured it all out" conviction. Honestly, I meant to explain. The only reason I still drove that cheap BYD was because I just struck it rich 3 days ago. I literally had not found the time to upgrade yet. It had zero to do with laying low. But looking into those eyes that practically scream "no need to explain," I totally get it. I hesitated. I swallowed my words instead. Yeah, something like that. Explaining felt like way too much trouble. She could think whatever she wanted. Still, her comment planted an idea in my head. I dropped my gaze to the steaming tea, doing some quick mental math. The system had just dumped over 87 million into my account. That was more than enough for a seriously nice ride. It wasn't about getting bored of my old stuff and craving shiny toys. My needs had just shifted. Right now, my ultimate goal was to build a massive, happy family. Cash is the bedrock of any solid relationship. Having money but pretending to be broke, running around chasing some pure true love who ignores wealth, you would have to have a screw loose. I was getting a new car tomorrow. As for the brand, my mind instantly jumped to Director Lou's Maybach. Massive back seat, perfect sound insulation, leather as soft as a living room sofa. Whether for a daily commute or other activities, the experience was top tier. Mo, what are you plotting over there? Lin Xiao's voice snapped me out of it. Nothing. I grabbed my teacup. Just remembered something. The words barely left my mouth when a knock hit the door. The server stepped inside carrying a heavy tray, rich food aromas tangling with the steam drifting through the private room. Lin Xiao snatched up a piece of braised pork and shoved it right into her mouth. Her eyes instantly lit up. It is so good, Swan, you have to try this. Swan lifted a tiny bite, chewed quietly for a second, and a faint, totally satisfied smile touched the corner of her mouth. Here, Mo, this first cup goes to you. Lin Xiao held her teacup high, her face completely earnest. Thank you for helping me and Swan score those internships at Seihai Hungto. I am toasting you with tea instead of alcohol, bottoms up. She threw her head back and drained the entire cup. I clinked the rim of her glass and took a casual sip. Swan quietly raised her cup too, taking tiny delicate sips. Her gaze brushed against my face super casually, lingered for a heavy second or two, then quickly darted away. Outside, the sky was bleeding dark. Lights flickered awake in the courtyard. That warm orange glow filtered straight through the bamboo, scattering dappled shadows all across the bluestone slabs. The vibe inside the private room was perfectly relaxed. We just idly chatted about dumb things from our first day, the cafeteria food, the newest campus gossip. I honestly did not say a whole lot. Mostly I just listened, dropping a word or two whenever it fit. Swan sat directly across from me. Every time she reached for food, she would accidentally glance up at me, then immediately duck her head. A faint pink flush crept right up the base of her ears, almost entirely hidden by the warm yellow light. Swan affection +5, current affection 70. The system chime rang out clearly in my head. I noticed, but kept my mouth shut. Pushing too hard only ruins things. I heavily prefer letting these moments happen naturally. Even if she could not handle other women in my life down the road, I still lost absolutely nothing. Halfway through dinner, Swan put her chopsticks down and leaned forward just a bit. I'm heading to the restroom. End of the hall. Take a left. Lin Sha mumbled through a mouthful of meat, pointing vaguely. The footsteps faded out and the hallway went totally quiet. Lin Sha swallowed her food, rinsed her mouth, then propped her chin up on both hands. She just stared at me, eyes sparkling. A knowing little smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. It was unsettling. My chopsticks hovered midair. What? Brother Lin Mo, let me ask you something. She leaned across the table, dropping her voice. All hushed and mysterious, like we were cutting a deal. What do you honestly think of Suan? My hand completely stopped reaching for the food. I just looked up at her. Gossip was written all over this girl. Her eyes gleamed with the pure thrill of a hunter spotting prey. She's nice. I dropped the meat into my bowl, keeping my voice dead flat. Just nice, she scoffed at that. Such a cop-out. Is Suan pretty? Yeah, she's pretty. Nice figure. What about her personality? Gentle, quiet, definitely not loud. I stopped for a second, giving her a pointed look. Basically the total opposite of you. She completely ignored that last part and leaned in closer. So do you actually like her or not? The question was blunt, so direct it actually caught me off guard. I didn't say a word right away. I set down my chopsticks and wiped my mouth slowly, acting lost in thought. Lin Shasha couldn't even wait 2 seconds before playing matchmaker again. Brother Lin Mo, if you're into her, I'll help you win her over. Listen, Sawan might look all soft and sweet, but she's seriously hard to get. 2 years of college and she's had at least 10 guys chasing her. The student council president, the basketball captain, even some rich kid whose family owns a massive company. None of them got anywhere. She dropped her voice, looking smug like she had insider intel. But with you it's a whole different story. You totally missed it. She kept sneaking little glances at you during lunch today. I counted at least 5 or 6 times. I've been her roommate for 2 years, and I've never seen her look at a guy like that. I stayed dead quiet for a few seconds. Of course I'd noticed Suan looking. The system affection points didn't jump up for nothing. From the initial 0 to 30, to 50, to 65, and just now to 70. Every single jump came with a loud notification. Impossible to miss. Seeing I wasn't responding, Lin Shasha figured I was hesitating and decided to fan the flames a little more. Plus, Suan's never dated anyone. You'd be her very first love. Where else are you going to find a girl this pure these days? How do you know she's never dated? I asked. Lin Shasha just rolled her eyes. I've lived with her for 2 whole years. You think I wouldn't know if she had a boyfriend? Freshman year, there was this senior who chased her for a whole entire semester. Waited right outside her dorm every single day. Brought flowers, bubble tea, scarves. Just completely head over heels for her. Guess what Suan actually did? What? She didn't even add him on WeChat. There was this weird note of vicarious pride in Lin Shasha's voice. She said she wasn't into him and didn't want to string him along. So, she just never added him at all. Didn't want to give him a shred of false hope. Tell me, is a girl like that not incredibly rare? I just nodded. She really was rare in an era where everyone plays mind games and keeps things messy. A girl that clean-cut was honestly pretty precious. So do you actually like her or not? Lin Shasha yanked the conversation right back, way more direct this time. If you like her, I'll totally set you two up. If you don't, just forget I said anything. I set down my napkin and looked right at her. Shasha, I'll be completely honest with you. I took a breath. Swan's great. Her looks, her personality, her vibe, all of it. And yeah, I do like her quite a bit. Lin Shasha's eyes completely lit up. Her mouth fell open, getting ready to say that's perfect. I'll go tell her right now. But I shifted in my seat. My tone dead flat like I was discussing the weather. I have a girlfriend. Her smile instantly froze on her face, and then I added not just one. The room went dead silent for a full 5 seconds. Lin Shasha just sat there with her mouth hanging open, eyes wide as saucers, like she'd just been struck by lightning. Her expression slid from shock to confusion, from confusion to total disbelief, and finally landed on wanting to cuss me out. What did you just say? Her voice actually wavered. I have a girlfriend, I repeated. More than one. She just took a long, deep breath. Then another. And another. Lin Mo. She lowered her voice, practically forcing the words right through her teeth. Are you messing with me? No. Then you're just bragging. She was absolutely adamant. You dropped out of middle school. You've been driving for a rideshare company for 5 whole years. And you go home alone every single year. And now you're telling me you've got more than one girlfriend? Who do you think you're kidding? That was exactly why she'd wanted to set me up with Suan. I'm really not lying to you. So, how many do you have? 2, 3, 4? Count them out for me. None of your business how many. I picked up my teacup and took a slow sip. Right now there was only one, but feelings are a pretty funny thing. Who's to say? Maybe I'd walk out the front door and just pick up another girlfriend along the way. Lin Shasha just stood there, mouth opening and closing like a suffocating fish. She had 10,000 curses locked and loaded, but not one made it out. She wanted to scream, how could you do this to Suan? You already have a girlfriend and you're still eyeing her? What kind of game is this? She wanted to yell that he was just playing with people, but then the reality hit her. I never actually said I wanted to chase Suan. She was the one playing matchmaker. I just gave an honest answer. I never lied about being single. And I definitely had not taken advantage of anyone here. It was like asking someone if they ate, and they tell you they already inhaled 3 bowls. You cannot blame them for having a big appetite. She knew all this, yet she was absolutely seething. That awful kind of frustration. You know the other person is in the wrong, but you just cannot pinpoint the exact crime. Lin Mo, do you realize what you sound like? She stared at me, face twisted up. You sound like a total player. I didn't confirm or deny anything. Just took another sip of tea. So how many girlfriends do you actually have? That is not important. What matters right now is that you just asked if I wanted to go after Suan. I put my cup down and met her eyes. My answer is if she can accept my other girlfriends, I am game. If not, no sweat. You cannot force this stuff. Lin Shasha was rendered completely speechless. She searched my completely deadpan face. For a second, she genuinely could not tell if I was serious or just talking trash. You are serious? Dead serious. She shut her eyes, took a slow shaking breath, repeating one thought in her head, do not curse him out. He's your cousin. The guy you grew up with. Sure, he desperately needs a slap across the face right now, but hold your tongue. Then soft footsteps echoed from the hall. Suan was back. Lin Shasha's eyes snapped open, violently swallowing the insults resting on her tongue. Her face pulled off a flawless half-second transformation. From murderous rage to a perfectly blank, nothing to see here mask. Hey, you made it back. Come sit, the food is still pretty warm. She smiled so naturally. You would never guess we just had an earth-shattering talk. Suwon was completely clueless. She settled back into her chair and quietly picked at some green beans that had gone cold. I caught Lin Shasha's eye. She glared right back, a heavy mix of pure anger, defeat, and disappointment. Now that she was calm, she had probably pieced together my dating life. After all, I was doing business with Lucy. And Lucy? Chairman of a $100 billion empire. Which meant my own net worth had to easily hit the billions. With cash like that, why would I ever lack women? I could realistically cycle through a new one every day. She just never expected her cousin to prove the oldest rule. Money absolutely corrupts. The rest of dinner felt warm and cozy on the outside. Inside, Lin Shasha was spiraling. She just shoveled rice, shooting sideways glances at the two of us across the table. I played it totally cool, eating and drinking like we had merely been chatting about the weather, completely unfazed by the bomb I just dropped. Suwon ate in silence. She kept stealing shy looks at me, the tips of her ears flashing a soft pink. Her crush was glaringly obvious. But Lin Shasha knew those feelings were crashing straight into a brick wall, a guaranteed disaster. Unless Suwon was somehow fine sharing her boyfriend with several other women. And these days, the odds of that were worse than winning the lottery. She sent a silent apology to Suwon, then mentally cursed me out again. But then she paused. Something felt off. I had not flirted with Suwon a single time tonight. The girl caught feelings all by herself. I had even openly admitted to having a girlfriend. So how was I the bad guy? At worst, I was just aggressively honest. Lin Shasha choked on that logic and chugged her tea. Whatever, drop it. Either way, her short-lived career as a matchmaker was officially dead in the water. Night had completely fallen by the time we finished. Orange lantern light bled across the stone courtyard of the old villa, bamboo shadows swaying. A rare slice of absolute quiet hidden deep inside the chaotic city. The girls walked side by side. Suwon murmured, "Did you hate the food?" "No, the food was great." Lin Shasha forced a stiff smile. "Just felt like they cranked up the prices, kind of a ripoff." Suwon let out a quiet "oh" and dropped it. But her eyes lingered on Lin Shasha's face a beat too long. Something was definitely off. I trailed behind them, taking the steps slowly, and clicked the fob. Down at the curb, the car chirped and flashed its lights. We piled in, Lin Shasha up front, Suwon taking the back. The car pulled away from the old town, headed home down the Riverside Boulevard. Outside the windows, the night scenery shimmered with color. The river caught the lights on both banks. Every now and then a sightseeing boat drifted past, trailing a long wake. It was quiet in the car. Just the AC rushing and the low hum of tires. Lin Shasha sat with her hands folded in her lap. She stared straight ahead, her lips pressed tight like she was holding something back. Swan just leaned against the seat, head tilted toward the window. The wind gently stirring her long hair. I held the steering wheel with one hand, glancing sideways at my cousin. She clearly had something on her mind, but I kept quiet. Soon we pulled up to the Benhai University gates. "Lin Mo, thanks for the ride." Swan popped the door to get out. But before I could say a word, Lin Shasha cut in. "Swan, wait for me by the gate. I need a word with Lin Mo." Swan didn't really get it, but she climbed out anyway. Her cream skirt swayed in the night breeze. The street lights stretched her shadow long across the pavement. Once she was far enough away, Lin Shasha finally exploded. "Lin Mo." She faced me, looking straight up like an interrogator. "You tell me straight. Exactly how many girlfriends do you have?" I shrugged and told her I never counted. Her voice jumped an octave, ringing through the car. "You have never even counted how many girlfriends you have. Are you serious right now?" "Being serious has nothing to do with counting," I said with a smile. "You don't count the hairs on your head every day. Doesn't mean you don't care about them." She snapped that it was a terrible comparison. She slapped her leg in frustration, claimed I was just dodging the question. I stayed quiet. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to calm down. "Fine. Let me ask this differently. These girlfriends of yours, do they know about each other?" "They do," I answered without hesitating. Lin Shasha froze. She fully expected me to say no, or at least give some vague answer. She didn't expect me to be so upfront. She asked if they all accepted it. "So far, yes." Her mouth dropped open again and stayed that way for a while. Finally, she closed it, staring at the side of my face for a full 10 seconds. The street lights flickered on and off, throwing my features into sharp relief. High nose bridge, clean jawline. Sure, I was good looking, but what good were looks right now? "Lin Mo, be honest with me." Her tone softened. "Are you into something shady?" "I am your cousin. I would never tell a single soul." I turned my head to look at her, totally amused by how she acted like she had stumbled onto some grave danger. "What is going through that head of yours?" She bit her lip, then just blurted it out anyway. "You are a rideshare driver. Out of nowhere, you are partnering with the chairman of a $100 billion conglomerate, juggling multiple girlfriends. What am I supposed to think? Are you helping Director Liu with something under the table?" I fell completely silent for a couple of seconds. I never expected her mind to go there. But thinking about it, her logic was not entirely off. A totally average middle school dropout suddenly leaps up the social ladder overnight. Anyone would find that highly suspicious. No, I told her, and I said it so seriously that she flinched. What I do is completely solid legally and morally. So what exactly do you do? You wouldn't get it if I told you you're brushing me off. I'm serious, I told her. I paused. Just think of it this way. I have a special skill, and that skill is highly valuable to Lucy High. So we work together. As for the girlfriend thing, that is my private business. It has absolutely nothing to do with the business deal. She stared at me for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out whether I was lying to her face. Eventually, she let it drop. Not because she actually believed me. She just knew that if I didn't want to talk, no amount of prying would ever get it out. What about Swan? She yanked the conversation back to the thing tying her up in knots. How do you actually feel about her? My fingers tapped the steering wheel twice. Swan is great, I said. I won't chase her, but I won't go out of my way to avoid her either. If she thinks I'm a good fit and accepts my situation, we'll be together. If not, we'll be friends. That is textbook player talk. She couldn't help but snap. Not chasing you, but if you throw yourself at me, I won't say no. How is that any different from being a total player? I thought about it. She really wasn't wrong. But I didn't see myself as a player. I was just being honest, laying my cards on the table, leaving it up to them to accept it or walk away. I didn't push. Didn't lie. Never played with anyone's feelings. Was that being a player? If Lin Sha could read my mind right then, she'd answer without hesitation. Yes. She sat there for about 5 seconds, then seemed to reach some conclusion. She unbuckled her seatbelt, shoved the door open and got out. Right before leaving, she turned back to look at me. Lin Mo, let me be totally straight with you. Go ahead. Swan is my best friend. Her expression was dead serious. Nothing like the giggly girl she usually was. I just didn't want her getting hurt. If you can't take responsibility for her, then stay away. Otherwise, she paused. As her cousin, I'll be the one stuck in the middle. I looked into her eyes and answered gravely. Naturally, she didn't say anything more. She shut the car door, grabbed her bag, and headed over to Swan, who was waiting by the entrance. From behind, she looked a little forlorn. Her shoulders were slightly slumped, her steps completely missing their usual bounce. But by the time she reached Swan, she forced a light, breezy smile, like nothing happened. Come on, Swan. Lin Sha told me about this next part later. The night had deepened, and the street lamps by the school gates stretched both their shadows out long. Swan and Lin Sha walked side by side down the quiet college campus path. Camphor trees on either side rustled in the wind, leaving a faint scent of cut grass and leaves hanging in the air. In the distance, a few dorm lights flickered. Muffled thuds of a basketball echoed from the sports field, bouncing against the ground before the campus fell completely silent again. Swan looped her arm through Lin Sha's. They walked together for a stretch, until finally, unable to hold it in anymore, she turned her head to look. A smile still lingered at the corner of Lin Sha's mouth, but it was painfully forced. The light in her eyes had completely dimmed, weighed down by something impossibly heavy. Shasha, Swan called softly. Hey, her voice was quiet, but it carried clearly down that silent campus path. You've been off ever since we left the restaurant. Totally distracted. Did something bad happen? Lin Sha's steps faltered, then quickly recovered. She tugged at the corner of her mouth. No, just pretty tired. It was my first day at work, you know. Aren't you wiped out too? Swan said absolutely nothing. Just watched her quietly. Her gaze was gentle, yet it carried an earnest weight you just couldn't dodge, like she could see straight through people. After a few seconds, the smile on Lin Sha's face completely froze. Shasha, Swan pushed again. What did you say to Lin Mo in the car earlier? Lin Sha stopped dead in her tracks. The street lamp spilled light from overhead, illuminating a face totally torn by inner conflict. She bit her lip. Her lipstick had faded during dinner, revealing the dry, natural color underneath. Swan stopped too, turning to face her friend. She didn't push, just waited quietly. Lin Sha lowered her head and stared blankly at the tips of her shoes. In her mind, two little voices were fighting again. One warned her she couldn't say a word, that this was Lin Mo's private business. What right did she have to spread it around? And honestly, saying something like this out loud would be insanely awkward. But the other voice argued that Swan was her best friend. She'd even wanted to set her up with Lin Mo. Now that things had gone this far, she had a duty to tell her. Otherwise, once she truly fell for him, the real hurt would begin. After a few mental rounds, the second voice won. Lin Sha took a deep breath. She looked up at Swan's face, so innocent, like it had never touched dirt, and an inexplicable wave of guilt welled up inside her. Swan, there's something I really need to tell you. Her voice came out tight, her throat feeling like it was being physically squeezed. But don't get upset when you hear it. Okay? Then gave a slow nod. Okay. Lin Sha glanced nervously left and right. There were hardly any people on the path. Still feeling uneasy, she pulled Swan over to stand under a camphor tree. She kept her back to the path, as if she could bury the secret in that small patch of shadow. In the car just now, I asked Lin Mo. She kept her head down, speaking incredibly slowly. Every word was forced out through gritted teeth. I asked him whether he actually likes you or not. Swan's eyelashes trembled slightly, but she made zero sound. He said he really does like you. Her voice grew smaller and smaller, almost carried away by the night wind. But she paused, clenching her teeth. But he already has a girlfriend. Swan's expression barely even changed. She didn't even furrow her brow. But the fingers hanging at her side curled slightly, gripping a corner of her skirt, pinching the cream-colored fabric into fine, tiny creases. Lin Shasha squeezed her eyes shut, as if physically forcing the words out of her body. He has more than one. The second she said it, she looked completely drained. Shoulders totally slumped. She couldn't even bring herself to look at Swan's face. Instead, she stared fixedly at her own shadow, like that blurry patch of darkness could offer some kind of security. Dead silence, it stretched on like a literal century. Somewhere far off in the distance, someone laughed. The wind scattered the sound, making it too faint to hear. Overhead, the camphor tree rustled. A withered leaf spiraled down, brushing past Swan's shoulder before settling silently onto the dirt. Sha finally spoke, still keeping that mild tone, completely betraying no emotion at all. It's really nothing. That's just Lin Mo's private business. Lin Shasha's head shot up, her eyes already rimmed with red. But Swan, I was going to introduce you to him. She explained it hurriedly, her voice trembling. And I could tell you were getting a little into him too. Seeing her right on the edge of crying, Swan reached out and gently rubbed her arm. Her voice softened. I know, I do not blame you. Lin Shasha sniffled. The heavy tightness of that pent-up guilt finally eased a fraction. She grabbed Swan's hand, cupped it tight between both of hers like something incredibly fragile. Swan, I am going to be honest with you. Her eyes were red, but her tone hardened. I honestly thought Lin Mo was a decent guy. Nice, great personality. That is exactly why I wanted to set you two up. But I had no idea he played the field like this. When I found out, I was absolutely floored. I almost went off on him right then and there. You know my temper. If we were not stuck in that car, I would have. She kept rambling, then abruptly stopped and let out a heavy sigh. Forget it. Me yelling at him does not even matter anymore. She looked up, locking eyes with Swan. Swan, I am not telling you this to make you miserable or to make you hate Lin Mo. You just have the right to know. Then you can decide for yourself what comes next. Swan listened in silence. Trying to push you two together earlier was wrong. I never should have said all that stuff without checking with you first. A deep, genuine apology layered her words. But now that it is all out there, whatever happens with Lin Mo is entirely your call. I am backing off. She let go of Swan's hand. Took half a step back, giving her a little room to breathe. If you want to keep seeing him, that is up to you. You want to walk away? That is fine too. She pressed her lips together tight. Whatever you decide, I have your back. Her voice caught. I just do not want you hurt. You are my absolute best friend, Swan. Silence stretched between them for a moment. Then the corners of Swan's mouth lifted into a faint smile. A hesitant, somehow reassuring smile. Thank you, Lin Shasha. Her voice was barely a whisper. Careful not to break the quiet night. I get it now. You are not mad, Lin. Shasha watched her closely. I am not mad. Swan slowly, she meant well. I know that. Lin Shasha stared at her, searching for cracks in that perfectly calm face. But Swan's expression was completely blank, smooth as glass. Not sad, not angry. Come on. We have an early start tomorrow. Swan led the way. Pale moonlight spilled through the branches, scattering broken shadows across her path. Her profile looked soft, her long hair swaying, skirt brushing lightly against her ankles. So impossibly quiet she almost blended into the night. But Lin Shasha knew the truth. Inside, Swan was far from okay. 2 years of sharing a room taught Lin Shasha one thing. The worse Swan felt, the calmer she acted. Flat on the surface, pulling you under beneath it all. Lin Shasha opened her mouth to speak, but shut it again. She just walked the rest of the way in total silence. Wiped the keycard. Climbed the stairs. Unlocked the door. Their roommates were out for the night. The place was pitch black, lit only by a murky orange street lamp bleeding through the window. The ceiling tube flickered twice, then buzzed to life. Swan slipped off her shoes, sat at her desk, took a sip of water completely casual, like it was any other Tuesday. Her eyes dropped to an open sketchbook. A rough doodle from a few days back. Just a car and a messy figure stepping outside. A faceless outline. She stared at the drawing for a long moment. Then she snapped the book shut and grabbed her pajamas. By the time she washed up, it was almost 11. Across the room, Lin Shasha kept tossing and turning. She kept thinking about what Lin Mo said more than one girl. Then her mind jumped to Swan's impossibly calm expression. Rolling onto her side, she stared across the dark room. Suan was facing the wall, the thin blanket pulled all the way up to her shoulders. Her breathing was steady, perfectly faking sleep. But Lin Shasha knew she was wide awake. Whenever Swan really slept, her breathing got much deeper. Right now, the rhythm was just too perfect. Carefully paced, like she was forcing it. Swan, she answered instantly. You holding up okay? 2 full seconds of darkness passed. I am fine. Muffled but still perfectly level. Get some sleep, we have an early morning. Lin Shasha just let out a quiet sigh. She rolled over, faced the peeling wall and shut her eyes. The room went dead quiet. A rare car engine fading down the street, the heavy hum of an AC unit. Outside, the night hung thick and suffocating. Swan just lay there, eyes wide open in the dark, watching that orange street lamp paint the ceiling. Not a single tear fell. Her eyes were not even red. But the whole afternoon kept looping in her head. Lin Mo leaning out the driver's side window, smiling, tossing food onto her plate at dinner. The way those dark eyes stared. So ridiculously calm. None of that aggressive heat you get from other guys. Just quiet, gentle, held back. She really thought it meant he was decent. Only now did she get it. This wasn't restraint, it was honesty. He never hid a single thing. He never pretended to be single. No vague promises, not a single drop of false hope. He was like a spotlight hitting her for just 1 second, telling her this light does not shine for you alone. Suan closed her eyes, pulling the blanket up over her nose. The cotton pressed against her cheek, smelling faintly of laundry detergent. Lin Xiaoxiao was completely right. She could make her own choice. She just didn't know what that would be yet. Ask herself honestly, did she actually like Lin Mo? The answer was yes. He carried this total composure way beyond his years. That casual vibe of having absolutely everything under control. It drew her in deeply like some kind of lethal poison. A violent flutter for a heart that never once raced for a boy. But he already had a girlfriend, actually, more than one. Cut back to the school gate. I sat in the driver's seat, watching them disappear inside. Lin Xiao's warnings still rang loud in my ears. Stay away from her if you cannot be responsible. Responsible, funny word. What does that even mean? Marriage? Loving one person forever? To me, responsibility isn't some rigid formality or a piece of paper. It is having the means and the drive to be a safety net for someone else's life. I have both, and I am willing. Whether the girls accept me dating multiple people at once? Well, that is a completely separate issue. I started the engine and drove toward the bay. I ditched the old rental and the presidential suite. Today was my first day living with Shinji Chin in our new home. I wanted to spend time with her, and the 3 little lives growing in her belly. Binhai Beiluan Villa number 2. Shinji checked her screen once more. Still 0 messages. She let out a soft sigh, untied her apron, tossed it over a chair, and walked over to the massive window. The garden lights were already on. A soft glow shimmered across the surface of the pool. A plumeria tree stood quietly in the fading dusk, its petals blurring into pale shapes. Moving day was finally here. The house felt way too massive. Big enough that her own footsteps bounced right off the living room walls. Big enough that looking out at the sea from the 3rd floor, all she saw was an endless stretch of silver light. The world felt impossibly far away. She leaned against the window, her finger tracing quiet circles on the glass. She knew Lin Mo was out eating with his friends tonight. Getting drunk and dodging toasts was pretty much impossible, so she cooked up a pot of hangover soup, then texted him to not drink too much. She typed the words, deleted them, then typed them again. She waited heavily before finally hitting send. It was pushing 9:30. Fresh petals drifted into the pool, just floating dead still under the warm glow of the lights. She suddenly pictured him earlier that afternoon. Lin Mo had stood right by that pool, asking if she liked the place. White shirt sleeves rolled up tight, relaxed posture. But his eyes were completely serious. It is way too big, she had said. A little lonely, she answered back then, her voice shaking. He just smiled. It will liven up once your sisters move in. She didn't dare reply. She knew exactly what Lin Mo wanted with her 2 younger sisters. Selling herself was one thing, but both her sisters falling into his trap too? Suddenly her screen lit up. On my way, 15 minutes. She stared at that text for a couple of seconds, then hurried straight to the kitchen. The soup in the clay pot was still hot. Tofu, enoki mushroom, and ground beef. Nice and sour. Her mother used to make it for her dad. She tasted a quick spoonful, dropping in a pinch of goji berries. But something still felt off. She looked down at her cream-colored lounge dress. Super comfortable, but way too plain. She hesitated for a split second, then sprinted upstairs. She flipped the master closet light on, digging out a pale pink silk nightgown. She slipped it on, swiped some lip balm, and let her long black hair fall loose, resting right on her shoulders. She faced the mirror. 2 seconds to confirm her charm was cranked up to the absolute max, then headed straight back downstairs. Simple logic. Only cows get worked to death, never fields ruined by too much plowing. If she kept Lin Mo totally obsessed with her, He wouldn't have an ounce of energy left for her two little sisters. She lingered in the entryway, then flipped on the light strips running along the roof. That sharp scent of frangipani from the courtyard rode right in on the night breeze. When those bright headlights finally swept across the curved driveway, she was already sitting on the couch, just scrolling through her phone. Hearing the engine, she immediately dropped her phone and hurried to the entryway. Her hand rested on the door handle, but she didn't open it right away. Instead, she peeked through the small window first. Lin Mo parked in the garage and walked over. He still wore that same white shirt from earlier, except the top two buttons hung loose. She gently pulled the door open. Lin Mo had just reached the step. Seeing her standing there under the warm porch light, he paused for a second. He asked why she wasn't asleep yet. His voice sounded perfectly clear without a single trace of alcohol. "The house is just too big," she replied. She told him she couldn't sleep alone. Her ears burned red, feeling like those words hinted at something more. Lin Mo didn't even think twice. He handed over the car keys and bent down to change his shoes. She hung them on the wall and mentioned she made some hangover soup. She asked if he wanted a bowl. Lin Mo looked up. Only a few warm lamps glowed in the living room, and she stood right in front of him. Her long hair fell loosely over her shoulders. It exposed a slender, pale neck and incredibly delicate collarbones. Beneath that pink silk dress, a pair of bare legs caught the soft light. She looked a little nervous. Without thinking, she tucked a stray strand of hair behind a slightly flushed ear. That soft, dewy face full of youth looked absolutely devastating right now. Heat flashed in the eyes of Lin Mo. He leaned down and kissed her. Caught totally off guard, Shinji Chin felt her mind go blank. Her hands instinctively grabbed his shirt. A strange spark spread through her entire body. Her pretty face turned deep red, practically glowing. She stammered out, "Lin Mo, shouldn't we go to the bedroom?" Her voice trembled as she caught her breath. Lin Mo looked puzzled and asked if someone else was home. They just moved in. No maid or housekeeper yet, just the two of them. She whispered that no one was there. "Then we are fine," he said. The second he said it, her feet left the floor. She started to yelp, but his mouth instantly sealed over her pink lips. The pale pink hem of her dress swayed in the air. Outside, the deep blue night sky melted right into the sea. The horizon was nearly completely gone, blending into a single massive stretch of dark silk. A frangipani tree swayed gently in the night breeze. Another blossom dropped, drifting silently onto the dark water below. The downstairs lights stayed on, glowing over fresh flowers on the coffee table. A light gray sofa sat near two pairs of slippers scattered across the floor. Inside that ridiculously large house, the sound of two bodies tangling together echoed against the distant crash of the ocean waves. The very next morning, before sunlight even touched the room, I jolted wide awake. Ever since I took that body-strengthening pill, I woke up like this every morning for the past 3 days. Considering it was the first time for Shinji Chin, I kept quiet about it, but I really never expected her to be so incredibly eager and alluring last night. We went at it for hours on end. Even so, here I was the next day in the exact same state. I guess young guys just run pretty hot. Personal panel host Lin Mo. Strength 14, 1 point pending. Constitution 14, 1 point pending. Agility 14, 1 point pending. Spirit 14, 1 point pending. Note, the natural value for an average adult is 10. Current status full of energy. Bound Shinji Chin. Shinji. Jang. Lin Sha. Wang Yu. Pending Shinji Chin. Total affection 408 over 48. Redeemable for 4 free attribute points. Shinji Chin 88. Shinji Chin 45. User Shinjihua 60, Zhangman 40, Zhangqing 0. Lin Sha 75, Suwan 70, Wang Yufi 30. Offspring 3 unnamed. Inventory empty. Looking at those few unprocessed attribute points, I almost woke up Shinji Chin to ask for a hand. But she was still fast asleep. I really couldn't bring myself to wake her up again. I slipped out of bed as carefully as possible, walked straight to the bathroom, and cranked the cold water. The freezing stream slammed down on my head, rushing through my hair, cheeks, and neck. The chill seeped right into my skin, finally tamping down that blazing fire inside me by a few degrees. I let out a long, heavy breath. The bathroom mirror fogged over, reflecting nothing but a blurry outline. Even blurred, I could clearly tell this body was different from a few days ago. Shoulders looked broader, waist narrower. My pecs and abs felt more coordinated, showing faintly beneath the skin. It wasn't the exaggerated bulk you see on guys at the gym. This was restrained and lean, a hidden, sharp edge like carefully carved jade. I turned the shower back to a normal temperature and quickly scrubbed down. Washing my forearm, I noticed the vein outlines were way more pronounced than before. The thick blue vessels wound just beneath the skin like a dormant dragon. I curled a fist, the veins bulged out, radiating raw power. No guy turns down a stronger body. I felt more than satisfied with these current changes. I actually couldn't wait to see what I'd look like tomorrow. once that body-strengthening pill fully processed. Glancing back up, I checked the line for free attribute points available for exchange. After thinking it over for a second, I decided against spending them right away. Better to wait until everything finished processing, see the final physical changes, and then assign the points. After all, I didn't want to turn into some animal thinking with its lower half just because I had too much pent-up energy to burn. I dried off and stepped out. Shinji-chin still hadn't woken up. I sat on the couch by the bed. Since I was buying a new car today, I needed to do some research first. Half an hour of browsing went by, still nothing. She wasn't waking up, so I finally gave up. I actually wanted to bring her along to pick out the ride. I went downstairs and cleaned up last night's mess, the entryway, the couch, the kitchen. Then I cooked 2 breakfasts, one for me, one left for her. I stuck a note on the nightstand. Breakfast is downstairs, don't forget to eat. Then I got in my car and took off. The Benheim Mercedes-Maybach dealership. If you are shopping for a luxury car, Lingua is absolutely the place to go. Back in my ride-hailing days, I used to hear plenty of stories about this specific dealership. The moment I pushed the doors open, I spotted a few people huddled in the showroom corner. They had their phones up, filming something. I didn't think much of it until a familiar voice called out for Mr. Lin. Jiang Man stepped right out from the corner. Today she wasn't wearing a professional skirt suit. Instead, she had on a white square-neck knit top, paired with black high-waisted wide-leg pants. She gave off a much more relaxed, feminine vibe than back at Zegna. Running into her was pretty unexpected, especially after having her deliver my hotel clothes last time. We really hadn't spoken since that day. She clearly didn't expect to run into me here either. The sheer delight in her eyes was impossible to hide as she hurried over, saying it really was me. She asked if I was checking out cars alone. I breezily told her I was just looking for a daily driver as casually as if I were buying water. The corner of her eye twitched, a casual runabout. At a Maybach dealer. A Mayman's favorability, +10. Current favorability 50. She quickly recovered, her smile glowing even brighter. She explained that her cousin was shooting short videos here, so she had come to help out. The sales manager, Wang Chong, was actually one of her clients. She said they knew each other quite well and offered to introduce us. At the very least, she could get me an insider discount. I told her I would really appreciate that. No trouble at all, she insisted, waving her hand. Then she turned toward the back of the showroom, calling for Jiang Manua to take a break and greet a VIP. Target matching criteria detected. The system is automatically binding for you. 1 target bound this time. 5 million binding funds have been deposited to your bank card. Please confirm receipt. The system chime barely faded before the crisp click of high heels approached. I followed the sound. A young woman was briskly walking over. A cream-colored knit cardigan clung tightly to her full curves and slender waist. The plunging neckline revealed a sliver of fair skin just below her collarbone. A black pencil skirt cut off 3 inches above her knee. With every single step, the tight fabric shifted against her hips, perfectly tracing the subtle contours of her legs. Black stockings sheathed her long, straight legs, catching a faint sheen under the showroom lights. She wore red-soled black stilettos with a solid 4-inch heel, yet she walked with perfect steadiness, as if strolling across totally flat ground. Behind her rimless glasses, her eyes were small but strikingly alluring. The outer corners tilted upward, her dark irises like bottomless pools of thick ink. Her nose was sharply refined. Her thin lips were plumped up, painted with a mauve gloss that left them looking as dewy as freshly picked cherries. Her entire face looked soft, utterly delicate. There was a subtle seductiveness hiding beneath her innocence. Her waist-length hair swayed gently with every single step. Name Jiang Manua. Age appearance 96. Figure 94D. Favorability 0. Relationship experience 0. Interests include luxury cars, yachts, art exhibitions, and diving. A healthy 0 relationship record. I genuinely hadn't expected Jiang Man, who had 2 past relationships herself, to have a cousin with absolutely 0 dating experience. But one glance at Jiang Manua's expensive interests told me exactly what she was after. Jiang Man took her cousin's hand. She introduced her cousin, Jiang Manua, calling her a short video blogger with millions of online followers. Then she turned to Manua. She introduced me as Mr. Lin, a Zegna VIP. Great guy. Manua smiled and said it was nice to meet me. Jiang Manua looked up and sized me up, a quick flash of admiration darting through her eyes. Jiang Manua's favorability +20. Current favorability 20. Jiang Man suggested Manua show me around while she went to grab Wang Chong. Manua agreed, and Jiang Man stepped aside to call him. She asked if I was buying a car. Jiang Manua's voice was sweet and clear like a stream trickling over pebbles. I gave a faint nod. She didn't mind my coldness, her lips just curving into a polished smile. She asked what model I was looking for, offering to walk me through the options. I scanned the massive showroom, my gaze finally settling on an obsidian black Maybach. That one? She followed my exact line of sight, her eyes immediately lighting up. That is the brand new Maybach S680 top trim. A 6.0 V12 with 612 horsepower Burmeister audio and reclining executive massage seats. MSRP is over 3.3 million. At the mention of that number, she snuck a quick glance my way. Not a single flicker of emotion on my face. I opened the door and slid inside. The leather felt incredibly supple, and the wood trim was as warm and rich as jade. The whole cabin just dripped with understated luxury. By the time I stepped back out, Jiang Man was already standing there with a guy in his early 30s. "Mr. Lin, this is our manager, Wang Chong." She stepped aside. She told Chong that I was a highly valued client of hers. "He needs your absolute best price." Wang Chong had been in the auto sales game for years. One look was all it took to know I was not your average buyer. He flashed a practiced smile and offered his hand, saying it was great to meet me. He added that any friend of Jiang Man was a friend of his. He asked what model I wanted since he had a few in stock. I ignored his hand. I just pointed behind me and said that one. He asked if I wanted to take it for a spin. I shook my head. "No need. I will take it exactly as it sits." Wang Chong froze in pure confusion. I told him I wanted the S680. My tone as flat as if I were buying bottled water, paying in full. "Can the paperwork be finished up today?" He had met plenty of decisive buyers over his career, but never anyone quite like this. Skipping the test drive completely. He eagerly nodded and said yes, absolutely. A full payment goes through fast, so they could have it ready by this afternoon. He asked if we should head in and sign the contract first. I agreed. Jiangman's favorability +5. Current favorability 55. Jiang Manua was equally blown away by my sheer efficiency. The burning curiosity in her beautiful eyes only grew stronger. Jiang Manua's favorability +10. Current favorability 30. The office was small but seriously impressive. A plush leather sofa, solid wood coffee table, and a giant Maybach logo plastered on the wall. Wang Chong brewed a pot of tea. As he poured, he explained that the top-spec S680 had an MSRP of 3.327 million. Factor in the purchase tax, insurance coverage, and vehicle registration, and you are looking at roughly 3.83 million out the door. But since I was Jiang Man's friend, he offered to knock off the change. He suggested a flat 3.8 million. Works for me. I didn't even bother haggling. Every dollar on me was earned by trading away my own energy anyway. Still, dropping 3.8 million in one single shot made Jiang Man's eyes completely light up. Jiang Man's favorability +5. Current favorability 60. Jiang Manua's eyelashes fluttered, and she instinctively bit down on her lower lip. Jiang Manua's favorability +5. Current favorability 35. The second that contract was signed, I swiped my card without a hint of hesitation. The absolute instant that payment machine spat out the receipt, both of their eyes shone even brighter. They totally assumed I would route it through a company or use a corporate account just to dodge the heavy taxes. But I did not. I bought the luxury sedan outright under my own personal name. What did that prove? Either I couldn't care less about the tax, or my massive net worth already dwarfed the price tag of this car. Jiang Man's favorability +5. Current favorability 65. Jiang Manua's favorability +5. Current favorability 40. I could tell Jiang Manua was quietly sizing me up in her head. Rich, and the exact kind of rich that never thinks twice about money. Mid-20s. Sharp features, tall and solidly built, with an impressive presence, and absolutely none of that greasy new money vibe. She had just added me to a very specific list. It wasn't long. Everyone on it was a romantic candidate she had personally handpicked. But all the previous names had fallen short in some way or another. Too old, painfully average looks, already married, or carrying questionable finances. I cleared the bar on every single count. She straightened up her posture and casually tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The subtle gesture looked entirely casual, but she had practiced it in the mirror hundreds of times. It highlighted her elegant neckline while perfectly flashing that Tiffany bracelet on her wrist. Pretty much any other man would have been itching to make a bold move by now. But while a brief flicker of admiration crossed my eyes, it vanished in a split second. She blinked, genuinely caught off guard, and then a faint, hungry need to conquer stirred deep within her gaze. Only a man like me was actually worthy of her. Worthy of all the intense effort she had put in. She murmured into Jiang Man's ear, keeping her voice barely a whisper. "What is the deal with this, Mr. Lin?" "No idea," Jiang Man replied. Jiang Man whispered back that she only knew he had some serious spending power. The last time he visited her store, he dropped over 80 grand on clothes without even blinking. "Over 80 grand? Jiang Manua repeated, her eyes instantly lighting up all over again. "Plus he always has these triplet sisters with him. Gorgeous girls with absolute killer figures." Jiang Man frowned. But the specific way he treats them is hard to pin down. They seem like girlfriends but also like assistants. A true high-quality guy like him. It is only natural he would have high-caliber women surrounding him. Jiang Manua's lips curved up slightly. Jiang Man paused, then spoke with total heartfelt earnestness. She admitted she probably didn't have a shot with him. She had added him on WeChat, but the man never bothered replying, unless it was strictly about work. But you are different. Prettier than me, better figure, and most importantly, you are totally untouched. That is pure capital. If you like him, you have to lock him down. Jean Manuela just nodded thoughtfully, saying nothing. Mr. Lin, the paperwork isn't quite ready yet, and it's almost noon. There's a really good restaurant nearby. Want to grab a bite together? Wang Chong checked the time, his eyes flicking back and forth between me and the two women. Sure, I had zero objections to eating with Jiang Man, my handy little tool. I wasn't about to turn down free affinity points. Jean Manuela wasn't bad either. If she could become a contract girlfriend, even better. The two girls had absolutely no complaints. They were dying to figure me out. Our group cut right through the showroom, heading straight for the parking lot. Sunlight slanted through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It hit the gleaming display cars, bouncing off in dazzling little flashes. Jiang Man shielded her eyes and leaned close to her cousin. She dropped her voice. Manuela, what kind of car do you think Mr. Lin drives? Jean Manuela studied my back. White shirt, squared shoulders, a totally relaxed stride. For a guy like him, maybe a Ferrari or a G-Wagon. Honestly, nothing would surprise me. She thought about it for a second. Or maybe a Panamera, something right in that range. That's exactly what I figured. That whole vibe and presence. He's definitely some rich family's young master. Not necessarily. Jean Manuela pushed up her rimless glasses. Behind the lenses, her alluring eyes flickered with deep thought. That calm he has, it isn't the kind you get from growing up rich. It's the absolute steadiness of a man holding his own money. Jiang Man shot her cousin a totally surprised look, saying she reads people so well. In their line of work, you better read people well. That line of work wasn't selling cars. It wasn't shooting videos either. It was finding a man. Finding the kind of man who could catapult her straight from ordinary to elite. In this game, having an eye for people mattered more than anything else. Misjudge a guy, and you either waste your time or lose your body and your leverage entirely. The girls followed us out of the showroom and stepped into the open-air parking lot. Wang Chong's car was pretty easy to spot. A champagne-colored BMW 5 Series parked in the most obvious spot available. He clicked the key fob. The lights blinked and he smiled right at me. He asked where my car was so he could follow. No need. I waved him off and walked to the far end of the lot. Two pairs of expectant eyes trailed after me. I stopped in front of a car, a Bide Sheen. The white paint had actually dulled a bit, fading naturally from years of sun and rain. Its lines weren't exactly ugly, but they were nowhere near good-looking either. Just an ordinary commuter car, the kind that vanishes into traffic. Nobody would ever give it a second look. I pulled open the door and slid right into the driver's seat. The engine started up. The sound was faint, but that quiet hum struck the two women like a massive thunderclap. They both froze on the spot. Their expressions completely shifted, moving from pure anticipation to confusion, and then straight to shock. It was like sitting inside a private Michelin star dining room, watching the guy across from you order a high-end bottle of wine, then reach into his pocket for a $5 pack of cigarettes. The contrast was so jarring it just short-circuited the brain. Wang Chong was completely stunned too. He quickly looked away, muttering to himself that this Mr. Lin really was one of a kind. Jiang Man snapped out of it. She opened her mouth and swallowed her words entirely, her eyes darting between the old car and me. Jean Manuela had finally come back to her senses too, but she didn't even furrow her brow. She just tilted her head slightly, staring at the beat-up car for a moment, and the corner of her mouth curved into a faint little arc. No mockery in that smile at all. No contempt either. Just a knowing look that said she totally understood. Jiang Man nudged her and dropped her voice. What's going on here? He just dropped 3.8 million on a Maybach. Why is he driving this thing? Jean Manuela quietly watched the way I gripped the wheel, one hand resting casually on the leather, the other adjusting the air vent. His expression was as calm as still water. Not deflated, not embarrassed. Just genuinely calm, like he wasn't driving a car worth less than 100 grand, but something matching the Maybach. No, he was even more at ease. The car he drives has absolutely nothing to do with his net worth. She looked away, her voice as soft as a pedal landing on water. When a wealthy guy drives a cheap car, there are only two possibilities. One is that it's an act. But 3.8 million in cash isn't fake, and that kind of relaxed composure can't be faked either. The other option, the car holds a very special meaning for him. She pushed up her glasses, a sudden light kindling in her eyes. Maybe it was a gift from someone incredibly important. Maybe it carried him through some unforgettable stretch of road. Or maybe it witnessed a truly pivotal moment in his life. To him, this is way more than just a car. Jiang Man's eyes lit right up, nodding in sudden understanding. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. He can pull out 3.8 million on a whim. Switching cars is as easy as changing his clothes. If he's still holding on to this one, he just can't bear to part with it. Keeping an old car doesn't mean he lacks taste or money. Honestly, it is the exact opposite. Shows he is pretty sentimental. He holds on to the past, and he won't just forget his roots now that he's rich. A trace of admiration crept into Jiang Manua's tone, something she didn't even notice herself. That kind of loyalty is worth way more than whatever car he drives. How a guy treats his old stuff usually reveals his true colors. Jiang Man let out a thoughtful hum. Then an idea suddenly clicked into place. She tugged her cousin's sleeve and leaned right by her ear. How exactly are we going to get both cars back? The Maybach. Jiang Man jutted her chin toward the showroom. The paperwork wraps up this afternoon, and he will definitely want to drive it home. But then there's his BYD too. You think he'll have someone pick it up or drive one back and return for the other? Jiang Manua's eyes flickered. It clicked instantly. You mean we offer to help him out? The corner of Jiang Man's mouth curled up. A sly little calculation gleamed in her eyes. After lunch, while he finishes the paperwork, we just tell Brother Chong to handle his business. We will drive Mr. Lin's BYD back for him. Deliver it wherever he wants. Office, home, whatever. She threw a quick wink. That way, we find out exactly where the guy lives. Completely above board, and we get to dig into his background. Jiang Manua stayed silent for 2 seconds, then gave a small nod. Honestly, that is not a bad idea. She stared at the BYD, her gaze heavy, almost like she was looking at a key that could open a very specific door. Still plotting, the two girls climbed into Jiang Man's white Volkswagen CC. It was an ordinary brand, but the coupe's sleek styling and frameless doors easily turned heads in traffic. In Benhai, a 24-year-old front desk girl affording a CC was already pretty impressive, even if she was making a massive car payment on it every single month. Wang Chong led the way in his BMW, and I followed at a relaxed, unhurried pace. About 10 minutes later, we turned down a narrow street. We pulled up outside a spot called Xuanwei Homestyle Kitchen. The storefront was tiny, and the decor was nothing fancy, but the entrance was completely jam-packed with cars. Wang Chong called out to me. He said the place didn't look like much, but the food was the real deal, his go-to for clients. I just looked around and nodded. Inside, Wang Chong was obviously a regular. The owner rushed over to greet him the second we walked in. She smiled. Manager Wang, your private room is ready. He told her to use the finest ingredients, bringing out the very best for today's VIP. Wang Chong stepped aside, gesturing for me to go first. After you, Mr. Lin. The private room was pretty small, a round table, just big enough for 4 people. Wang Chong tactfully took the seat right by the door. That left the prime window spot for me. Jiang Man hesitated for a split second, then sat down to my right. Jiang Manua glanced at her cousin, then naturally settled into the chair on my left. This seating arrangement was definitely no coincidence. On this one specific thing, the two girls were of remarkably like mind. Neither cousin wanted to be furthest away from me. Wang Chong saw the whole thing play out, and something pricked lightly at his chest. It didn't hurt, but it definitely stung. He really liked the Jiang cousins. He had liked this pair of flowers since the very first meeting. The hard truth was simple. Women like these two had never, not even from the start, been looking at a guy like him. Sitting at the table, I saw right through Wang Chong. When he poured my tea, his smile was completely flawless and seamless. But his fingers told a different story. His grip tightened, knuckles turning pale white. I'd seen that kind of smile too many times. That forced dignity a man puts on right after swallowing his pride. His eyes kept lingering on Jiang Man for half a second before quickly darting away. I picked up my tea and lightly tapped his cup. Manager Wang, you are entirely too kind. Come, Mr. Lin. Let me toast you with tea instead of wine. He raised his little cup and drained it in one single shot. Whatever you need from now on, maintenance, repairs, just say the word and I will handle it personally. Then the dishes started coming out one after another. Themed leopard coral grouper, garlic lobster, rich matsute chicken stew, and sea cucumber with scallions. Premium ingredients prepared simply just to bring out the natural flavors. I picked up a bite of fish, tender fresh. Absolutely delicious. I gave a nod and Jiang Man lit up instantly. Eat more if you like it, Mr. Lin. This grouper is strictly limited every day, she said. Manager Wang, pulling strings, showed serious clout. He quickly waved it off. Not at all, Mr. Lin is the one with the luck. First visit, and he is already getting the absolute best. Wang Chong expertly smoothed things over. By now, the two sisters' warmth had doubled since we left the shop. Jiang Man kept putting food right onto my plate. Her movements were so incredibly natural. It felt like she had done this 1,000 times. This sea cucumber is stewed until perfectly soft and tender. Try it out. And this piece of lobster is so incredibly delicate. Have a bite. Jiang Manua wasn't quite as outgoing as her cousin. She ate slowly, occasionally glancing up at me with a faint, barely there smile hidden in her eyes. It was almost like she was asking, "This dish is really good, isn't it?" That kind of subtle push and pull dynamic was way more seductive than blatant fawning. And I saw the whole game clearly. These two women, one knocking with warmth, the other setting a trap with silence. Meanwhile, Wang Chong was shrinking inch by inch. He lowered his head and shoveled in a mouthful of rice. Chewed twice, his Adam's apple struggling to swallow. I knew exactly what he was thinking. If he had my kind of money, would Jiang Man's first bite tonight have gone straight to him? Would Jiang Manua get that little smile in her eyes when she looked at him? The hardest thing isn't wanting something you can never have. It is knowing full well you do not measure up and still having to smile and raise your glass. But he pulled himself together fast. That is the cold reality of adulthood. Swallowing down unrealistic dreams. Turning to reach for whatever is actually within grasp. "Mr. Lin, I will oversee all the paperwork myself this afternoon. You won't have to lift a single finger." Setting down his teacup, he switched to an even more eager smile. "I can have someone deliver the car, or you can drive it out today yourself. Whatever works." I told him I would drive it out today. Then he asked about my BYD, offering to call me a designated driver. "No need." Cut in, her tone totally light, like it was no big deal. "Mr. Lin, Manua and I are totally free this afternoon. Let us drive that BYD back for you. Home office, wherever you want." Jiang Manua nodded along, telling her sister to ride with me. "Afterward, I will drive Mr. Lin's car." She paused, a faint smile curving at the very corner of her lips. "I am a decent driver. I won't scratch it." I just glanced at her. Behind those rimless glasses, her eyes were watching me with a smile. The outer corners tilted up slightly, just like a lazy, elegant cat. I looked away. "Fine. Thanks to both of you." "No trouble at all," they replied in unison. Then they exchanged a quick look. I knew exactly what it meant. Done deal. They wanted to size me up through a car, an office, an industry, or a home address. These were the clues a hunter used to weigh their prey. I took a sip of tea without changing my expression at all. "Want to look? Then look all you want." Marina Bay Villa District. Wan number 2. Sunlight squeezed right through the gap in the heavy curtains, drawing a sharp golden line across the floor. That light was exactly what woke Shinji Chin. She rolled over and groggily reached out beside her, empty. The rumpled bed sheets and the faint scent of heather, lingering in the air, reminded her that last night had not been a dream. On the nightstand sat a folded note with her new phone right beneath it. The handwriting was messy. "Written by Lin Mo? Breakfast downstairs. Do not forget to eat." She stared at that single line, the corners of her mouth curving up completely on their own. She slowly sat up. The strap of her silk nightgown slipped right off her shoulder. Only then did she feel the deep soreness in her body and notice those faint red marks. Images from last night came flooding back all at once. "It is nothing like they said online," she murmured. She had given it everything she had last night. Yet, right before she blacked out from the sheer pleasure, that man clearly had not been satisfied. She figured she was probably just too new to the game. She had not quite caught up to his intense rhythm yet. He washed up, ate, and cleaned the dishes. The congee was delicious. She picked up her phone and replied, "I had breakfast." The congee was great. Standing there in the empty kitchen, she suddenly found it pretty funny. A house this big where one person seemed to have endless things to do, and yet absolutely nothing that needed doing at all. Then the phone buzzed. "Lin Mo, good girl, I will reward you tonight." She stared at those exact words for a long while, a warm flush rising to her pretty face. She took a deep breath, set her phone face down on the kitchen counter, and went to dig through the massive fridge. She wanted to make him lunch, though she was not really sure if he would even come home. Hesitating, she sent another quick message. "Coming home for lunch? I will cook." This time, the reply came back fast. "No, someone is treating me. Get some rest. There is a business card on the table downstairs. Order whatever you want today." Reading those caring words, a real warmth spread through her chest, but her hand instinctively pressed against her lower belly. These past few days, she had not used protection. She had not brought it up, and neither had he. It was almost like the two of them were silently agreeing to something big. Since she had already sold her body, she might as well get pregnant. A pregnancy meant exactly 5 million. With that 5 million, my father's massive debts could be completely paid off, and my mother and 2 younger sisters could finally just breathe. She was not afraid of being poor herself. What truly terrified her was watching the entire family struggle together in endless poverty. That utter helplessness in the face of money. She never ever wanted to taste that feeling again. She opened her chat with Shinji and pulled up that specific photo from the hospital room. Her mother wore the standard blue and white striped patient gown, the cuffs loosely rolled up to reveal a painfully thin, bony wrist. She was leaning against the headboard, her hair carefully combed back. She was smiling, but the smile looked weighed down by something. The sheer exhaustion in her eyes was completely impossible to hide. Shinji had an arm gently wrapped around their mother's shoulder, bending slightly. Shinji Hua was practically pressed right up against her, throwing up a peace sign. Fruit and a bouquet of carnations sat on the nightstand. Sunlight spilled through the half-drawn curtains, washing the blue and white stripes in a warm glow. She checked another message. Her mother's surgery deadline. When the time came, she would have to ask Lin Mo for time off. Chime. Lin Mo texted that they might have guests over later. She typed out a quick okay and got straight to work. Even if it was just a maybe, this silk nightgown had to go. And last night's marks, those needed to be cleaned up too. Cruising down Binhai Avenue, I steered the brand new Maybach I had just picked up. The salty sea breeze washed right over my face. In the rearview mirror, Jiang Manua drove my BYD. Jiang Man trailed right behind her in a Volkswagen. Two cars traveled separately, but they kept a voice call running the entire way. The wind was way too loud to catch the words. Still, I knew exactly what they were discussing. That BYD had light steering, painfully average suspension, and absolutely zero sound insulation. But I knew Jiang Manua was sitting in the driver's seat right now, turning over completely different thoughts in her head. Every single road this car had carried me down, she was retracing inch by inch, even if it was just a short stretch. We passed through Binhai's busiest streets before turning back onto Binhai Avenue. Built right along the coastline, 6 lanes both ways. The city skyline rose on one side. The endless sea stretched out on the other. At the intersection sat a massive boulder carved with 3 gilded words, Binhai Bay. In the rearview mirror, watched Jiang Man suck in a sharp, sudden breath. Every villa here featured a private garden and pool. The smallest unit started at 10 million. The oceanfront standalone estates? Those had reportedly broken 100 million a long time ago. The answer they had been hunting for was finally here. Over at the main gate's booth, the security guard stood ramrod straight. He opened his mouth to ask the routine questions. Then he recognized me. He immediately threw a crisp salute and raised the barrier. I pulled up beside him, rolling down the window. I told him the cars behind were with me. Let them through. He nodded, of course, Mr. Lin. The sisters' expressions froze in the rearview mirror for a split second. They did not even need to tailgate their way inside. Security here was usually airtight. The cars rolled through. The road wasn't exactly wide, but the paving was absolutely flawless. Tall, orderly palm trees lined both sides. Shrubs trimmed as sharp as a knife cut. Vintage-style street lamps glowed every few meters. Even the air smelled different here. The dusty exhaust fumes of the city center were gone, replaced by a crisp breeze carrying heavy sea salt. Turning down a side street, I pulled right up in front of Lana number 2. Killed the engine, stepped out. Behind me, both car doors popped open one after another. Then came 2 sharp intakes of breath, catching at the exact same moment. We are here, this is the place. I casually slammed the car door, keeping my tone dead flat. Mr. Lin, you live here? Jiang Man's voice pitched up before she could even stop herself. Binhai Bay? Even the cheapest lot here costs a fortune. She choked down the rest of her sentence. Jiang Manua had way more composure than her cousin did. She didn't gasp. Just pushed her glass up and let her gaze drift slowly across the villa's massive facade. I knew exactly what she was calculating. Imported Italian Bianco Carrara marble. Triple pane argon-filled low-E glass. 300 stainless steel railings coated in fluorocarbon. Every single detail whispered the exact same word. Psst. Jiang Man favorability up 15. Currently at 80. Jiang Manua favorability up 20 points. Currently at 60. I held out my hand for the keys. She handed them right over. The split second our fingertips touched, I felt her hand physically trembling. I ignored it, grabbing the keys and slipping them into my pocket. Mr. Lin, your villa is absolutely gorgeous. She pulled her hand back, voice totally smooth again, lips curving at the perfect angle. She asked if it wasn't too forward to take a look inside. The eager anticipation in her eyes was calibrated flawlessly. If it was convenient, she would be delighted. If not, absolutely no problem at all. I glanced at her, then at the BY behind us. Come on in and sit. I turned and shoved the heavy door open. The space beyond the threshold opened up massively. The garden was somehow even bigger than it looked from the street. A stone path wound toward the entrance, flanked by perfectly manicured lawns. Frangipani trees stood in full bloom by the pool, covered in tiny white and yellow flowers. Their sweet fragrance drifted heavy on the air. Scattered petals floated across the 20-meter pool, the water sitting still as a mirror beneath the afternoon sun. Jan's eyes went totally blank with pure awe. Mr. Lin, is that pool heated? I nodded. She assumed someone maintained it. Property management handles it, I told her. Question, answer. Simple enough. But I could practically see her doing the math in her head. A heated outdoor pool plus high-end property management. That kind of upkeep easily burned through 5 figures a month. We crossed the garden, and I pushed open the heavy solid wood front door. The entire ground floor was open plan. The living room, dining area, and kitchen all flowed seamlessly together, framed by ceilings over 6 meters high. Enormous floor-to-ceiling windows pulled in sweeping views of the garden and the ocean. It was just too much to take in. Jiang Man tilted her head back to stare at the ceiling, voice full of shock. Jiang Manua didn't gawk. Her gaze stayed steady, but everywhere it landed I mentally tagged a price. Italian sofa over 100 grand. Black walnut coffee table 30 or 40,000. Even that unremarkable Japanese porcelain vase ran a few thousand a pop. Mr. Lin, would you mind if we went upstairs to look? She shifted to a lighter tone. I glanced over. She didn't want to see the house. She wanted to weigh my net worth. Sure. The second floor had 3 guest suites and a family room, each boasting a private bath and walk-in closet. One had been turned into a kid's room. Soft blue walls bordered with cartoon wallpaper. Jiang Man stood in the doorway. Her cheeks flushed out of nowhere, and she quickly looked away. Down at the end of the hall, a large balcony with rattan furniture overlooked the entire bay. The salty sea breeze rolled in. Out in the distance, the water shattered into millions of silver points of light. So beautiful. Jiang Man sighed with real admiration. Jiang Manua stood right beside her, the wind lifting loose strands of hair off her forehead. She reached up to tuck them back. Her eyes stayed locked on the sea, totally lost in thought. Some people look at the ocean and see its vastness. Others look at it and calculate exactly how much this view costs. Lin, can we go up to the 3rd floor? Jiang Man turned back, eyes full of anticipation. I started to answer. A faint noise came from upstairs. Like someone walking very soft, but in a mansion this dead quiet, it was impossible to ignore. Jiang Man instantly looked up toward the stairs. Mr. Slin, is someone else here? I gave a short reply and offered zero explanation. Jiang Man started to ask something else, but footsteps echoed on the stairs. A pale foot in a pink crystal slipper stepped onto the marble. Fair and clean like the purest thing in the world. Then a slender ankle, a shapely calf, and a gray loungewear set. Finally, a face so soft and delicate it looked almost fragile. The girl was no older than 18 or 19. Her long hair sat pulled back into a bun, revealing a smooth forehead. Her eyes were large, lashes thick, her lips naturally red without a drop of makeup. She had this innocence, mixed with a hint of newly bloomed allure. I could tell Jiang Man recognized her. They had met before at Zegna, back when she assumed Shanxi Qin was just a bird I kept in a gilded cage. Shanxi Qin saw the guest and paused. Her gaze swept over me, then landed on the Jiang sisters. It carried a faint scrutiny, neither hostile nor welcoming. Mo, you are back. Her voice was soft, a little shy, perfectly playing our agreed part in front of my guests. She was supposed to address me a bit more affectionately. I nodded and gestured toward the sisters. Shi-Chin, this is Jiang Man. We met at Zegna. And this is Jiang Manua, her cousin who helped me bring the car over. I paused, then said every single word deliberately. This is Shanxi Qin, my girlfriend and the lady of this house. The second I finished, the air in the living room just froze. Like someone hit pause. Jiang Man's smile stiffened right on her face. Her mouth opened and closed, like a fish flopping on dry land. She looked at me, then at Shanxi Qin. The very last flicker of hope in her eyes ground to total dust. Girlfriend. Lady of the house. I hadn't said friend. I hadn't said house guest. Any adult knew exactly what those titles meant. Not a kept woman. No, this was clearly the wife in all but name. Jiang Manua had far better control over her expression, though. She didn't glare. The faint curve at the corner of her mouth didn't even vanish. It just froze for half a second before snapping back to normal. She pushed up her glasses. Behind those lenses, something sank incredibly fast in her eyes. Not disappointment, not jealousy. It was a recalculation so calculated it bordered on ice cold. A perfectly measured blush rose on Shanxi Qin's face as she came downstairs and naturally took my arm. Miss Jiang, we meet again, she said, turning to Jiang. Man, thank you for bringing Mo's clothes back last time. Oh, do not even mention it. It was nothing. Jiang Man said, struggling to keep her voice totally even. Shanxi Qin nodded to Jiang Manua too, dimples showing. Nice to meet you, Miss Jiang. Thank you for helping bring Mo's car over. Jiang Manua looked right at that young face, and something inside her tipped like a scale. She understood better than absolutely anyone what age for a woman. She smiled back. Nice to meet you too, Miss Shan. It was no trouble at all. Just call me Shi Qin. Her eyes crinkled as she looked up at me. Mo, have our guests had the tour? Should I brew a pot of tea? They have seen it, I said. Then I will go make some tea. Please, have a seat. She turned and headed toward the open kitchen downstairs. The hems of her loungewear swayed gently around her ankles, radiating an ease that fit this villa perfectly. Not a guest. Not a passerby. The lady of the house. Jiang Man's gaze followed that retreating figure until she completely vanished around the corner. She took a deep breath, turned back, and forced a smile. Mr. Lin, the moment I first saw Shinji Qin, I thought the two of you were a perfect match. Thank you. Jiang Manua completely skipped the pleasantries. She stared at the corner for 2 seconds, then looked away. Mr. Lin, the car is delivered. We will not intrude any longer. We have a long drive back, so we will pass on the tea. Please thank Shinji Chin for us. She tugged at Jiang Man by the sleeve. Right. We really should get going, Jiang Man said, snapping to attention. All right then. Thanks for all the trouble today. Drive safe, I replied, making absolutely no effort to keep them around. By the kitchen, Shinji Chin stood holding a teapot. She looked slightly disappointed. Leaving so soon? The tea is almost ready. No, we are perfectly fine. Maybe next time. Jiang Man waved her off, but her footsteps were noticeably quicker than usual. Shinji Chin set down the teapot and walked us to the door. Sunlight caught her dark hair, casting it in a bright golden glow. She waved. Her smile looked completely innocent, like someone who knew nothing of the world. Yet the way she called him Lin Mo felt so incredibly natural. So natural it actually made your chest tighten up. I saw it clearly the second Jiang Man opened the car door and got inside. Her hands were trembling. Not from the cold, but from pure bitterness. The car pulled out the gates of Marina Bay, turning straight onto Coastal Avenue. The ocean view outside looked exactly like an oil painting. But neither of them was in the mood to look. 3 minutes of silence passed before Jiang Man finally broke. Jiang Manua. Her voice was slightly hoarse. Do you think she is actually his girlfriend? Jiang Manua did not answer right away. She just tapped her fingers against the steering wheel twice. You saw her before it's I did, along with her 2 younger sisters. Identical triplets. Jiang Man recalled the moment. She was picking out clothes for Mr. Lin, while the other 2 just sat on the couch watching. I honestly thought she was some kind of kept woman. Are you saying all 3 sisters are Mr. Lin's girlfriends? That part I do not know. Back then the 2 sisters never offered an opinion. They were just spectators. Past or present, it hardly matters. Jiang Manua delivered her verdict. You know just as well as I do. There is no man alive who does not have a wandering eye. Faced with identical triplets, you think Mr. Lin would not be tempted? It is only a matter of time. Jiang Man nodded. If she had that kind of money and power, and premium triplets were standing right in front of her, she would not let it slide either. So, do we still have a shot? Her tone carried real anxiety. She had already given up on having him all to herself. She just wanted a taste of whatever was left. Of course we do. A faint curve touched the corner of Jiang Manua's mouth. If he has just one girlfriend, he is sentimental. Shinji Chin is just so young and naive. She is no match for us. 2 against 1, the advantage is ours. If he has 3 girlfriends, he is a total womanizer. However fun those triplets might be, us 2 sisters are no worse. 2 against 3. The advantage still belongs to us. But what she never said out loud was this. Lin Mo barely responded to a single one of her messages. Most likely, he looked into her background or simply was not interested. But for now, she still needed Jiang Man to pull her weight. So she let the word slide. You are right, Jiang Manua. When sisters unite, we cut through steel. Jiang Man thought for a moment, desperate to prove her worth. I have a client who works in property management over at Marina Bay. Let me ask around. Maybe he knows the inside story on Mr. Lin. Good. Jiang Manua nodded. When it came to followers, she was a video influencer with nearly 1 million fans. But when it actually came to real connections, she could not match Jiang Man, a seasoned counter-sales girl. Jiang Man quickly dialed a number, putting it on speaker. Hello, is this Chin? It is Jiang Man. The voice came through instantly, so excited his voice cracked. Jiang Man, what made you think to call me today? Nothing much. I helped a client today, a guy named Jia. He claims he lives at number 2 Lan Wan in Marina Bay, and he wants to marry me. Chin, you work over there. I just wanted to ask, is the owner of number 2 Lan Wan actually named Jia? Jiang Man did not blink. Jiang Man, do not let yourself get scammed. The owner of number 2 Lan Wan is named Mr. Lin, not Jia. Chin's tone took on a hint of showing off. I heard the guy is actually a shareholder in Seihai Hungone Group. A shareholder in Seihai Hungone. Those words slammed straight into the ears of the Jiang sisters. Something exploded in their minds. Like glass shattering, then violently reassembling into something entirely massive. Seihai Hungone Group, a conglomerate worth hundreds of billions. Even a minor shareholder would be worth billions, easy. No wonder he spent so freely. Jiang Man had zero interest in chatting any further. She tossed out a quick promise to grab dinner sometime, then hung up. The car went dead silent for 5 whole seconds. Look it up. Get online right now and check the Seihai Hungone Group shareholder information. See if a Mr. Lin is listed. Jiang Manua's voice was completely urgent. Okay. Jiang Man quickly opened her browser. It was a publicly listed company after all. Digging up shareholder records took barely any time. She found the exact percentage almost instantly, 15%. Those numbers practically burned her eyes. Her jaw hit the floor. She just sat there staring. Jiang Manua glanced over, asked what the big deal was. Just some shares, right? Mr. Lin holds 15%. Tires shrieked. The words barely left her lips before the car slammed to a halt, throwing them both forward. What did you say, 15%? Jiang Manua shrieked, her voice cracking. She snatched the phone away, staring at that glaring 15% on the screen. Finally made it real. With Sci-Hi hung at its current scale, that stake meant over 15 billion. And Lin Mo owned every single piece of it himself. Zero family inheritance, meaning, as long as he played it remotely safe, he was set. That kind of cash bought pure luxury for the rest of his natural life. Even a tiny fraction slipping through his fingers would drag them out of the dirt and into the elite. She had to get him. Jiang Manua needed him. Steal, lie, claw her way, and whatever it took, he was going to be hers. Jiang Man was just as rattled. She had pegged Lin Mo at maybe a billion. 15 billion was a totally different universe. But it made sense. How else could he afford number 2 land? That kind of top-tier villa requires heavy cash. The address alone screamed impossible wealth. Looking down the barrel of that much money, being his actual wife didn't even matter. Just being the girl on his arm would pay out for a lifetime. Right then, both sisters locked onto Lin Mo with absolute, terrifying obsession. Jiang Man's affection up 10, current affection 90. Jiang Manua's affection up 10, current affection 70. I had no clue Mr. Lin swung that much weight. Manua, what is our next move? Jiang Man asked, literally shaking. We strike first, Jiang Manua replied. Her dark eyes practically gleamed with calculation. Hesitate for a single second around that kind of cash, and you get nothing. The man only has so much time. If we stall, half the city's women are going to tear him to pieces. So how do we start? On what excuse? Simple, I left my bag back at his place. Jiang Manua gave a slow, dangerous smile. Is that good enough? Jiang Man blinked, totally stunned. No wonder her bag was missing, she staged it. Her cousins started laying traps before they even knew his real net worth. Bringing her along was a stroke of genius. Back at the villa, I watched their white Volkswagen CC vanish down the street, then finally turned and walked inside. Shinji Chin shut the heavy door. The warm expression on her face vanished in a heartbeat. I sat on the couch and asked if they were gone. She just nodded, walking over to sit down. She asked how her performance was. I told her it wasn't bad. Reaching out, I pulled her close, narrowing my eyes. Told her I'd give her that evening reward a little early. Right now, in fact. She completely tensed up, glancing toward the broad daylight outside. She stammered out that it was too early, begged to wait for tonight. I froze, then burst out laughing. I meant your cash allowance, I told her. You are living under my roof now. Going around totally broke is a hassle. Oh. Her face burned bright red. Honestly, the embarrassment was a really good look on her. I leaned in for a kiss, sweeping her up toward the 3rd floor. Much later, completely exhausted, she passed out cold in the bed. I was just thinking about how green she still was when my screen lit up. A text from Jiang Man asking if Mr. Lin was home. She said Jiang Manua left her purse behind. Begged me to do a quick sweep for it. Ignoring it was the plan. But the girl just fed me a massive affection boost, and honestly, Jiang Manua held my attention. I only held back earlier to avoid looking desperate. If you jump at the first knock on your door, nobody respects the price tag. I shot back that I would check. Jiang Man instantly sent a massive thank you, swearing they searched absolutely everywhere. Right. I smirked at the screen. Lost it or left it as bait? The answer was obvious, but ruining the game ruins the fun. 2 minutes later, I spotted a black Chanel purse chilling in a guest room. I texted her back, found it. You coming over? Jiang Man replied immediately. Claimed her car died. Asked if I could please deliver it nearby. Said she was stuck at Galaxy International, but no pressure if I was busy. Across town, both sisters stared at the screen, holding their breath. The trap was set. If he said yes, they would ambush him with dinner right there inside Galaxy International. If he bailed, it meant zero interest, forcing a total reset. Then Lin Mo replied, I actually have some free time. I will bring it over. Seeing that message, they practically screamed. He said yes, so the rest was entirely on Manua. Jiang Man patted her shoulder. Relax, sis, Jiang Manua told her. If the guy shows any interest, he is never escaping my grip. She spoke with terrifying confidence. Honestly, Jiang Man was starting to look at her younger cousin with pure awe, ditching the Chanel bag. Picking Galaxy International, a building conveniently stacked with both dining and hotel rooms. It left every exit open. Every single move was a surgical strike. Whatever mood Lin Mo walked in with, they had a trap prepared. Some hunters have the whole game mapped out. The second, they place their first piece. But they forget one crucial detail. The deadliest prey walks willingly right into the trap. If he actually shows up, what then? Jiang Man asked. Jiang Manua's eyes flickered. Lowering her voice, she laid out the entire plan. Jiang Man's cheeks flushed hot when she heard it. But she didn't argue, just gave a tiny nod. 15 minutes later, my Maybach rolled right into the underground garage at Galaxy International. The second I stepped out, the Jiang sisters were already heading my way. Same outfits as earlier, but Jiang Manua had clearly touched up her makeup. Sharper, way more alluring. She spoke first. Mr. Lin, thank you so much. Her tone dripped with absolute apology. She called herself careless. Said she caused me a massive headache. I just smiled faintly and handed over the black Chanel bag. I told her it was nothing. She refused to hear it. Snatching the bag, her fingertips dragged casually across my knuckles. She said they absolutely had to thank me properly. Mentioned a Cantonese spot hidden inside a nearby office tower. The head chef trained at Lei Garden. Total authentic deal. She asked if Mr. Lin would do them the honor. She tilted her head up. Those captivating eyes locked directly onto mine. Just a perfectly measured flash of anticipation. I checked the time. 6:30. Right at dinner time, and my evening was wide open anyway. I glanced right above their heads. Zhang was affinity sat at 70. Zhang Man at 90. I knew exactly what these two were scheming. I had spent days focused heavily on Shanji Qin. A little change of pace wouldn't hurt at all. I nodded sure. Turning them down would just be rude. Zhang Manua's eyes lit up immediately. I felt a quick flicker of satisfaction, but kept my face completely blank. Zhang Man jumped straight in. Right this way, Mr. Lin. She led the way. The elevator ride was dead quiet. The sisters flanked me. One on the left, one on the right, subtly boxing me in. One smelled fresh and sweet. The other, slightly intoxicating. Two distinct perfumes swirling together in that cramped steel box. I stayed perfectly still, pretending I hadn't noticed a thing. The restaurant sat up on the 23rd floor. City lights were just starting to flicker awake beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling glass. Our private room was tucked way in the back, secluded. Intimate. Once seated, Zhang Manua flipped the menu open, tilting her head my way. She asked what Mr. Lin wanted. I told them to just order whatever they liked. She rattled off the order. Signature steamed crab and wine, braised fish maw with matsutak, and some stir-fried seasonal greens. Closing the menu, she tacked on 3 bowls of slow-simmered soup. The plate started rolling and beautifully arranged, the smell absolutely mouth-watering. Zhang Manua poured my tea herself. Every single motion looked incredibly graceful. She raised her cup, toasting me with tea instead of wine. I raised my own cup, then a slow sip. Phoenix Dankong. A rich, sweet aftertaste coated my tongue. Asking if work kept me busy these days. I told her it was manageable. I picked up a slice of roast goose, chewing slowly. She pushed further. What did I do in my free time? Working out? Golf? Collecting? I looked right up at her. I asked if this was some kind of interrogation. Blunt words, but I wore a lazy smile. Her heart clearly skipped a beat. But she recovered fast, dipping her head just enough to expose a slender, pale neck. Her voice softened. She begged Mr. Lin not to get the wrong idea. She just really wanted to get to know me better. For a guy as impressive as me, wanting to dig a little deeper was only natural, right? The room went totally dead for a second. I caught Zhang Man freezing mid-sip. Her eyes were wide with total shock. She definitely didn't expect her cousin to make a move this fast. Biting her lip, she checked her phone and abruptly stood up. She told us to go ahead and eat while she took a call. The door clicked shut behind her. Now it was just me and Zhang Manua. She lifted her gaze. All that polite reserve was completely gone, replaced by bare naked heat. Still holding her teacup, she murmured my name. She walked around the table, sliding into the seat right beside me. The gap between us vanished. We were close enough now that I could breathe in that faint, intoxicating scent radiating off her. She said she wasn't one to beat around the bush. She turned, planting one hand on the table right next to my hip. She had me practically caged in. Said she preferred to lay her cards on the table. I put my chopsticks down, leaned back against my chair. I told her to go on, watching her with a lazy smirk. She took a breath, voice totally steady. Every single syllable landed crystal clear. Lin, I like you. I've liked you since the very first second we met. And she swore it wasn't about the money. Wasn't about the massive mansion. It was just because of who I actually was. She leaned in close, her lips practically ghosting my ear. Warm breath brushed my skin, carrying the sweet, heavy scent of Huadiao wine. She wanted to be my woman. Didn't care how many others I already had. Even if she was just another name on the list. Her voice dropped into a heavy, breathy sigh, and she didn't pull back. She held that dangerous skin-to-skin distance, just waiting for my answer. Dead silence in the room. Just the wind rattling the glass. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't push her away. Just turned my head and met her gaze dead on. Her eyes were trembling, a mix of burning hunger and some wild, reckless resolve. About that confession. A slow smirk crept onto my face, my voice low and pretty direct. Her chest tightened. I gave no real answer. No warm welcome either. She was gambling on my next move. Before she could speak, I took my time. I won't play games with you either. I'll give you what you want, but on one condition. Total obedience. Can you handle that? Her heart nearly gave out. Total obedience. She rolled the word around, a slow curve spreading across her lips. Not some shy little smirk. It was the pure relief of someone who finally understood the game, carrying just a hint of wicked charm. When you say obedience, she tilted her head, lips brushing right against my earlobe, her voice dropping to a whisper. In what sense exactly? I held my ground, angling my head just a fraction. I asked what she thought it meant. Her mind finally settled. I get it, she told me, pulling back just enough to catch my gaze. Those dark eyes looked completely earnest. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. I might lack special talents, but I know how to read a room, make myself useful, and stay perfectly in my lane. Right then, she picked up my chopsticks, pinched a piece of the huayao steamed crab, and lifted it to my mouth. I took the bite, letting her wait on me. Honestly, Jiang Manua had top-tier looks and an absolutely killer figure. Even the way she served me felt completely dialed in. Every couple of bites, she'd offer a spoonful of broth or a sip of wine, pacing the heavy and light flavors perfectly. The viewing angle was flawless. Her plunging neckline completely exposed to me, hiding absolutely nothing. You should eat too, I told her, letting the meaning hang there or you won't have any strength later. Caught the hint entirely, showing zero hesitation. She'd waited 22 years. Wasn't this the exact moment she had been dreaming of? 3 soft knocks echoed against the door. Jiang Man pushed it open and stepped inside, wearing a carefully practiced look of apology. Sorry, that phone call dragged on a bit. She scanned the room. I was at the head of the table, choofing casually. Jiang Manua sat right beside me, so close we were practically touching, both of us looking completely unfazed. But one quick glance was all she needed to catch the faint, poorly hidden thrill on her cousin's face. The bait worked. Her chest fluttered, though she kept a stone face as she walked back to her seat. Mr. Lin, is the food all right? Pretty good? I nodded. Have some yourself. Right as we were wrapping up, her phone buzzed. She checked the screen and stood up. I'm incredibly sorry, Mr. Lin. An emergency popped up and I have to run. Would you mind making sure my cousin gets home? No problem. She turned for the door, flashing a heavy, subtle look at Jiang Manua as she passed. Jiang Manua gave a tiny nod. Getting late, she said. Let's head out. I said all right. Mr. Lin, she started. Still calling me Mr. Lin. She quickly corrected herself. Mo, let's go. She slipped her arm through mine and we walked out acting like a couple deeply in love. Kept quiet. Just let her cling to my side as we made our way toward the front lobby. The hallway lights felt incredibly dim. Warm yellow sconces dragging our shadows out long against the floor. The front desk sat to the right, this massive semicircular counter. Just as we stepped up, another couple walked in right next to us. The guy was tall and painfully thin, wearing a casual navy blazer, head down, aggressively digging through his wallet while muttering to himself. I've got this, he insisted. No way am I letting you cover the bill. The girl nudged him, cooing back that it was fine then. Next time is on me. The cashier looked up with a professional smile. Hello, which room were you in? 8807. Jiang Manua spoke up, not loud, but clear as day. The guy whipped his head toward the sound, locked onto her face, and completely froze up like somebody just hit pause on his life. 3 seconds. Then 5. The girl beside him yanked his sleeve, asking what he was staring at. He snapped out of it, swallowing hard as he rushed to study the menu. But his eyes kept drifting right back to us. I saw the whole thing unfold. Honestly, couldn't bring myself to care. You could see the exact cliché running through his stupid head. One look at my expensive Xena suit, then at Jiang Manua hooking her arm through mine. Out late drinking, looking all warm and overly affectionate. He'd probably written the entire movie in his head already. A rich creep keeping a gorgeous girl whining, dining, and chauffeuring her around. With that thought, a sudden flash of smug superiority washed over his face. Love bought with cash. How much of it could really be genuine? Amusing, sir, please, sir. The cashier's voice dragged him back. He panicked, asking for the total. He fumbled with his credit card, cheeks burning red. Your meal comes to 861. His hand froze mid-reach, his eyes drifting back over to us. Our cashier was just finishing up with our specific table. Your total comes to $3,240. Over $3,000. I caught a tiny spark of expectation in the guy's eyes. Like he was waiting for me to casually drop a black card and put on some massive show of wealth. His eyes just about bugged out of his head. Jiang Manua slid a bank card from her Chanel bag and handed it over without missing a beat, smooth as silk. She didn't even glance my way, just asked them to run it. Her tone was as casual as if she were buying a corn dog. That guy's jaw nearly hit the floor. He stared blankly while the cashier ran the card, printed the receipt, and handed it right back. Jiang Manua bent down to sign with neat, elegant handwriting. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds. And me, the sugar daddy he had pegged me as, just stood there cool as a cucumber. A slight smile tugged at my lips. I could practically hear his brain short-circuit. Wasn't the man supposed to pay? Wasn't this supposed to be the whole big spender routine? How could this ridiculously gorgeous woman be the one footing the bill? Dropping $3,000 without batting an eye. Who exactly was this guy? Some kept boy toy? but he didn't exactly look like the freeloading type. Watching the color drain and flush across his face, I found it downright hilarious. The guy who had been writing my whole story in his head a minute ago probably felt like he should wear a red nose and join the circus. "Sir, please enter your PIN." The cashier snapped him back to reality. He mechanically punched in his PIN, his brain still in a fog, and couldn't help sneaking another glance at Zhang Manua. This time there was zero envy, just a kind of loss he couldn't quite name. Zhang Manua had already looped her arm through mine again. She tilted her head slightly, wearing a faint smile as she murmured something to me. Her entire attention was totally locked on me. She never once let her eyes linger on that guy. Not for a single second. His girlfriend chimed in, asking what he was thinking about. He snapped out of it and hurried to catch up. Even at the door, he turned back for one last look. We were already gone from the lobby. In that moment, maybe he finally got it. Some things in this world really aren't about money. I couldn't have cared less that I'd been too lazy to pay, leaving some stranger to spin an elaborate story about me. Right now, I was standing at a hotel front desk with Zhang Manua. I pulled out my wallet, set a black card on the marble countertop, and offhandedly asked if she brought her ID. She paused, blinked, then fished her ID out of her bag and handed it right over. The young clerk took it with a professional smile, though her eyes clearly betrayed her contempt. Just another one of these guys. A big man, 6 feet tall, and he needs the woman to show her ID to book a room. Probably afraid of leaving a record his wife might dig up, or was he too cheap even for that? Not even a tiny shred of ownership. She muttered to herself, casually pulling up the room listings. Her tone cooled a few degrees as she asked what type of room I wanted. Standard king, deluxe king, or presidential suite? Presidential suite. I cut her off. Her fingers froze above the keyboard for a split second. Slowly, she lifted her head and looked me over again. Only now did she notice the Zen I was wearing, and the Maybach key I had carelessly tossed onto the counter. Her attitude did a complete 180. That fake smile melted into something genuinely deferential. "Of course, sir. The presidential suite is currently available. 28,888 yuan per night. Breakfast for 2 included, plus executive lounge access." I slid the black card forward. "Run it for 1 week." Her hand literally trembled as she took it. That flicker of contempt in her eyes vanished into thin air. It was instantly replaced by a fresh string of wild speculation. No wonder he wanted her id. A rich kid at this level bringing along a girl this gorgeous. He's not worried about leaving a record. He's worried about getting set up. That kind of scam is everywhere these days. One seduces you, the other kicks down the door, then they bleed you totally dry. He must have been burned before. That's why he shoved all the risk onto the girl. I watched that smug little flash of understanding in her eyes and didn't even bother correcting her. Some misunderstandings just aren't worth clearing up. The truth was usually the simplest one. I just didn't feel like paying. The receptionist kept circling her gaze back to Zhang Manua. Envy was practically dripping from her eyes. I knew that look. Tall, loaded, and walking in with a bombshell like this just to book the presidential suite. In her mind, Zhang Manua had hit the absolute jackpot. She handed back the room key, ID, and black card altogether. Her smile was professional and radiant. "Sir, the presidential suite is on the 38th floor, the top level. There's a private elevator straight up. Enjoy your stay," she said. I gave a low grunt, took the key, and led Zhang Manua into the elevator. The moment the door slid shut, I caught the receptionist craning her neck to peer after us. She immediately grabbed a coworker to whisper. Her voice was hushed, but not quite low enough. "Did you see that? That guy booked the presidential suite for a whole week." The elevator climbed, while Zhang Manua stared at the gold-embossed words on the keycard, hesitating a moment. "A regular room would have been fine," she said. "You really didn't have to." The elevator numbers climbed fast. I lifted my chin, keeping my tone completely shut down to any argument. My woman deserves the absolute best. Her face flushed, yet a clear spark of delight right through her eyes. Zhang Manua affection +5. Current affection 75. The 38th floor. Out in the hallway, thick, dark carpet swallowed up every single footstep. Oil paintings lined the walls, while the faint, sweet fragrance seemed to drift through the heavy air. The key card beeped. The door swung open and lights flickered on one by one as we stepped inside. This living room was just absurdly massive, and just beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows lay a completely dazzling city nightscape. It looked like somebody had just scattered crushed gold all across the ground. Zhang Manua caught her breath. This was exactly what she had been chasing all along. She glanced at the massive tub and spoke first. "Mo, want to take a bath together? Interesting. Last time I was with Shinji Chin, I had to suggest it, and she just shied away entirely. With Zhang Manua, things were the exact opposite." "Sure." I reached right out and wrapped an arm around her waist. Slender waist. The fabric of her pencil skirt felt smooth and stretchy. Pressed against my palm, I could actually feel the delicate warmth beneath that cloth. She let out a soft hum, and instead of pulling back, she just leaned right into me. This bathroom was even bigger than I expected. The tub itself was a round jacuzzi set into marble, facing an entire wall of floor-to-ceiling glass. Countless city lights spread out beneath our feet. They flickered and glimmered, making it feel like we were standing inside a galaxy. Bath salts, essential oils. Towels folded like flowers sat along the edge of the tub. A cart held an ice bucket, champagne, and a little dish of bright red strawberries. Jang Manua stepped back, crouching down by the tub to test the water. As she bent over, her top rode up just a bit, revealing a sliver of lower back so it practically glowed. "The temperature is just right," she said. She glanced back at me. "Want me to undress you?" "No rush, you first." "Okay." She removed her rimless glasses, folding and setting them on the shelf. Without those lenses to hide behind, her slightly upturned eyes suddenly looked a whole lot more alluring, the corners curving up like a crescent moon. She smiled right at me, hooked her fingertips into the hem of her top and slowly lifted. The sound of fabric brushing against skin felt totally amplified in the dead silence. Then, right at her chest, she paused. "It's stuck," she said. "Come help me." Was it actually stuck? I couldn't be bothered to figure that out. I stepped up and gave it a tug, letting the top fall into my hands. Her cascading hair spilled downward, releasing fresh waves of some subtle fragrance. Under the bathroom lights, her skin looked almost translucent. My gaze traced the line from her bare shoulder all the way down to the dimples at her waist. She definitely felt that burning stare, and a pretty faint flush rose up her cheeks. Yet, she didn't flinch or shy away. Instead, she just swept her long hair behind her ear, showing off this gorgeous curve between her arm and her side. The pencil skirt's zipper sat right at her waist. She pinched it, drew the metal slowly down, and let the skirt slide loosely over her hips. Bending down, she eased the fabric to her ankles and stepped entirely out of it. Graceful. Completely effortless. The lighting hit from behind and above, tracing this really soft glow around her collarbone, her shoulders, the dip of her waist. All of it wrapped in a haze of steam like some thin gauze veil. Should I keep going? Her tone carried a hint of smugness, a real touch of mischief. She really liked the look in my eyes right then. Nothing like earlier today before things were official, when I kept looking at her like she was just some passing stranger. Now our relationship was completely locked in. I am definitely no saint. Certain reactions were just bound to happen. "Let me take yours off," I finally told her. If I let her keep undressing for me like this, it was going to mean real trouble. "Okay." Her hand reached right for my collar. Her movements were not exactly practiced. A little clumsy, even. It made for a funny contrast to the boldness she showed earlier when she casually suggested we shower together. After she undid that final button, she didn't just rush to pull the shirt away. Instead, she pressed her cool palm flat against my chest, her fingertips sliding slowly over my collarbone, tracing my pecs, finally coming to a rest right in the grooves of my abs. She looked up and there was zero flirtation in her gaze. She just studied me like some pleasing piece of art. "Mo, you have such a great body." Then she lowered her lashes. They trembled faintly as her hands sped up, stripping away the very last of my clothes. The tub was finally full. Thick steam blurred the city night view just beyond the window. She popped the champagne, poured 2 glasses, and set them by the strawberries at the edge of the tub. I stepped in first. She followed, walking to the opposite side and slowly lowering herself down until the water hit just above her waist. The soaked black lace darkened, clinging tightly to her skin. She tilted her head all the way back against the rim of the tub. Her long hair fanned out across the surface like a sheet of black silk. Water droplets rolled down her neck, vanishing into the hollow of her collarbone. Hot water wrapped around me. My pores opened up, letting the day's ache slowly melt away in the heat. She took a sip of champagne and watched me through the mist. I kept my eyes closed, resting like that scorching look earlier had never happened. "Falling asleep already?" There was a pouty, teasing edge to her voice. Under the water, her toes crept over and brushed my calf. I opened my eyes and caught her ankle. The pad of my thumb traced slowly up the bone. Her drenched stocking clung even tighter now. I could feel the warmth of her skin right through the fabric. She didn't pull away. If anything, she just raised her leg higher, letting water droplets slide right down her calf. She asked if I liked what I saw. I nodded. She claimed she didn't believe me since I wasn't even reacting. Her tone was 3 parts sulky and 7 parts playful. I tightened my grip, pulled her right toward me. The water splashed violently. A champagne glass tipped over, spilling amber liquid straight into the bath. Neither of us cared. That distance vanished completely. She braced her hands against the edge of the tub and leaned right in. Wet hair stuck to her shoulders and back, with a few strands hanging over her chest. One droplet dripped off her chin and landed squarely on my chest. Without her glasses, the look in her eyes was totally unguarded. Not shy, not nervous, just something close to pure admiration and heavy anticipation. Called my name Mo. Her voice felt entirely softened by the rising steam. Her fingertips traced slowly along my jaw from the chin to behind my ear and all the way down to my collarbone, moving like she wanted to memorize every single inch. She whispered something so soft, it was almost completely drowned out by the running water. "This feels so nice," she murmured. Not aroused or overly excited, just nice. The words slipped from her lips with a totally unexpected innocence. I cupped the back of her neck and pulled her in. Her lashes fluttered, then slowly closed. Her dark red lip gloss tasted fruity, sweet, and just faintly sticky. The instant our lips met, that sweetness passed to me, mingling with the faint bitterness of champagne, melting between us. Strangely enough, once she was pressed against my chest, she turned clumsy. Her pressure felt uneven. Her breathing fell off rhythm, like she was struggling to adjust to another person being this close. My palm rested against her waist. Right through the soaked lace, I could easily feel the supple muscle underneath. From that narrow waist, the curve flared out suddenly at her hips, full and completely fluid. Those drenched stockings clung tight to her thighs. That barely visible boundary was somehow way more enticing than if she had been completely bare. The water kept running. The warm current from the jets hit the small of her back like countless gentle hands. The bath lapped against the tub walls with a soft, steady murmur. Breathless from the kiss, she turned her head and leaned against my shoulder. Her chest rose and fell. Her warm breath spilled onto the side of my neck. At some point, her arms had wrapped entirely around my waist, fingertips curling slightly. She told me to wait. Her voice came out muffled, husky, with the heavy aftermath of her breathlessness. I stopped. She lifted her head, cheeks completely flushed. That lip gloss was smudged from the kiss. It only made her mouth look even more luscious, just like crushed cherries. A thin mist clouded her eyes, but the color beneath was deep as ink, filled up entirely with my reflection. I asked if she forgot to breathe just now. She bit her lower lip, letting a rare flash of real embarrassment show. Instead of answering, she buried her face right in the crook of my neck. Her voice was almost too faint to hear, begging me to stop asking. System alert: Zhang Manua's affinity +5. Current affinity 80. A change has been detected in the host relationship with bound target, Zhang Manua. Settlement funds unlocked. One target unlocked this time. 50 million in settlement funds has been officially deposited to your bank card. Please confirm receipt. We moved things over to the massive bed of the presidential suite. Zhang Manua nestled in my arms, that flush still lingering on her face. Only now had she truly tasted the kind of pleasure Shinji Chin had known. She had assumed I just had a decent build. Never expected me to be this good in bed. Mo, she paused. She asked if she should bring her cousin along next time. Her cousin? Never mind. I shook my head while stroking her smooth shoulder. I told her if she had any friends who had never been in a relationship, she should feel free to introduce them. Her expression stalled for a second. So it was just because Zhang Manua had been in relationships before. As for how I knew about Zhang Manua's romantic history, at my level, how hard is it to look into someone? She didn't find it strange at all. Honestly, it was just as well. At least she had figured out one thing. This guy had pretty picky tastes. He wouldn't just settle for anyone. She completely got it. She obediently agreed to keep that in mind. Since she had chosen to be with me, I definitely wasn't going to be stingy. I asked for her account number to send over some spending money. She quickly gave it to me. I entered the digits and made the transfer. 200,000 yen deposited to account 0119. Balance 22,075 yen and 42 cents. Reading that text, Zhang Manua's eyes widened. All this just for me. 200 grand in a little over an hour. Way easier than grinding through live streams and shooting ads. No wonder so many girls toss their principles right out the window. Honestly, what do you expect? You're my woman. If I don't take care of you, should I let some other guy do it? My tone was playful but laced with absolute dominance. 100 grand of that is your base allowance. The other 100 grand is just a bonus. Thank you, babe. She cupped my face and planted a fierce kiss right on my lips. Her voice turned incredibly sweet and clingy. Zhang Manua's affection +5. Current affection 85. Do not thank me just yet. I have one more request for you. No protection from now on. If you get pregnant, we keep the baby. It will put my parents at ease. She hesitated at first. Having a kid would totally wreck her figure. But the second that word parents hit her ears, her heart gave a violent jolt. She only ever planned to be a secret lover. But if she could meet my parents, a child would raise her status. Being an official girlfriend or even a wife wasn't totally impossible anymore. With that thought, her reluctance completely vanished. Her exhausted body suddenly flipped over and climbed right back on top of me. Babe. I honestly meant to go easy on her, but I could not hold out against the way she coaxed and rocked against me. Who could withstand that? Zhang Manua has successfully conceived. Childcare fund unlocked. Congratulations, host. You have just received 100% ownership of Anna Hospital. Equity documents have been safely stored in the system space. Please check the Anna Hospital interface. It originally started as a worker sanatorium for a massive state-owned enterprise. Following a huge restructuring, private capital took it over. It was renovated several times. Rumor had it worth over $3 billion. Jiang Manua dropped a massive surprise on me, so she definitely earned a little reward. But I just gave her plenty. Handing over more right now felt wrong. Feed her too much and she loses her hunger for the next job. Anyway, the following morning moving day for Shinji Hua and her sister into Lana number 2. I pulled my Maybach up and parked right in that rundown neighborhood, just down the block under a sycamore tree. A few seniors in Tai Chi gear paused their stretches. Wow, would you look at that fancy car? What kind of brand is that? An old woman with pearl earrings leaned in, shaking her head. She had absolutely zero clue. Never seen that logo, she muttered. But the paint is so glossy it works like a mirror. Must be something special. That has to cost an absolute fortune, right? A few $100,000 at least. No way, another argued. I would say easily $1 million. An old guy clutching a thermos spoke up like an expert. Look at those rims, those lines. My son has an Audi and it never shines like that. People craned their necks, eyes wide with pure curiosity. Who on earth are they visiting? Nobody around here has family with that kind of cash. What is someone that loaded doing in this dump? In the middle of their gossip, light footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Shinji Hua and Shinji walked down, each dragging a small suitcase. The younger sister wore a white dress. High ponytail, faint dimples framing her smile, and eyes sparkling like a bird finally freed from its cage. The older sister kept things simple in jeans and a white tee. She stood there cradling a box of baking molds. Brother-in-law Shinji Hua called out from across the street, her voice ringing as crisp as silver bells. The seniors all whipped their heads around, eyes nearly bugging out. Wait, are those the 2 Shin girls from the 9th floor? Turns out they know the guy driving this beast. The old woman with pearl earrings rubbed her eyes and dropped her voice to a whisper. Oldly, you remember this, right? Last week I almost set up my grandson, the bank teller, with that quiet older sister. But look at them now, hanging around a Tycoon. How am I supposed to show my face after this? Oh, give it a rest. How much does your grandson even make? Enough to cover their family debt? Another senior openly sneered. Standing in the crowd, a plump woman with a grocery basket muttered a sour reply. The debt collectors haven't banged on the Shin's door all week. These girls cozy up to a rich guy out of nowhere? Sounds like they just became some sugar daddy's brand new playthings. The words hung in the air like a needle. A few older neighbors traded silent, uneasy looks. It was true, though. For the past couple of days, 0 debt collectors had come sniffing around the Shin place. Shinji felt the stares, too. She grabbed her sister by the arm and murmured to stop bouncing around. Just get the bags loaded up. Shinjiwa playfully stuck her tongue out and headed for the trunk, then suddenly froze. Down the alley, a few guys in floral shirts swaggered right toward them. The guy leading the pack rocked a thick gold chain. An unlit cigarette dangled loosely from his mouth. His dead eyes locked right onto them. He smirked. Well, if it isn't the 2 Shin sisters. What a coincidence, heading out so bright and early. He grinned, flashed a gold tooth. His voice was totally dripping with this nasty, greasy kind of smugness.